Good morning, friends. Welcome to session 6 of today's our Ind AS series. I welcome Yagnesh Desai, who has been a full support in designing this software for me. And I personally would like to thank him on behalf of the core committee for helping us organize this program. And yes, I would also like to congratulate him for completing 37 years of practice. Today he has entered 38th year. Yagnesh bhai, congratulations for that. And friends, today, based on the request of the audience, I have specifically requested Yagnesh bhai to kindly go into practical things. The theoretical presentation will be shared on the group, so he will not go into theory too much, but he will go on practical things which will help the audiences. And without moving further, I would request the moderator Girish bhai to take over. Girish bhai.
Thank you, Vijay. Good morning, friends. I welcome you all to the sixth session of our online education series on Ind AS. It is organized by Tax Practitioner Association Thane, Tax Friends Association Mumbai, GST Bar Association Varanasi, Income Tax Bar Association Prayagraj, George Professional Foundation, Bhiwandi Tax Practitioner Association Bhiwandi, Association of Tax Practitioner Vellore, and Legal Relief Society Kolkata. Friends, today we have Senior Chartered Accountant Sri Yagnesh Desai, CA Yagnesh Desai, who will guide us on Accounting Standard 103 and 110, and also entertain us with his songs. Before handing over mic to him, I will briefly introduce him. CA Yagnesh Desai is a member of ICAI, Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. He has been practicing since 1983, August 1983. He has wide knowledge of audit of corporate and taxation matters. He is actively associated with activities of Institute of CA on IFRS training for certification course of IFRS conducted by the ICAI in India and also abroad. He is also providing training on the diploma in IFRS examination conducted by ACCA of UK. He has composed and delivered e-lectures for accounting standards for ICAI. He is a speaker on accounting standards at various seminars of ICAI. He has also delivered motivational speeches at various national convention and student conference. So, friends, between April 2009 to till date, he has delivered 875 lectures sessions, and today it is 876 sessions. Friends, within a short time, he will be completing 1000 lectures also.
Thank you.
He is also co-opted member of Accounting Standard Board of ICAI. This is on professional front. He is also have developed a hobby of comparing music shows. He has taken part in the half marathon. With this, friends, I present before you Mr. Yagnesh Desai. Sir, now forum is yours.
Thank you, Girish bhai. At the outset, I must thank Vijay bhai, जो हमारे एक घनिष्ठ मित्र है. काफी सालों से हम एक दूसरे को जानते हैं. And I'm grateful to him for giving an opportunity to me. And I'm grateful to my friend Kishore bhai Parekh, who has sacrificed his lecture for this lecture, which is a 38th year. I'm starting 38th of my career, and I'm dedicating my first day of 38th year to the CA fraternity, to Vijayji and all the friends of Tech Society, and all of you, sir. I'm also Vijayji. केवल 2 मिनट लूंगा ये प्लेटफॉर्म के लिए for my personal thing. I'm grateful to my institute ICAI for grooming up, for shaping me, and for giving me an opportunity in my career. And I'm also grateful to my parents, my friends, my office team, and especially my associates, business associate like Mr. Kishore Bhai Parekh, CEO Venkat Subramani, a wizard on financial instrument, my son Anand, Abhi Desai, Hemant Bhai Bahadia, my past and present colleagues and partners, and everybody. And to my CA fraternity, जिन्होंने मुझे संभाला, मुझे सहा और इतने लेक्चर्स का मौका दिया. विजय जी, आज मैं मेरे प्रोग्राम की मेरे सेशन की शुरुआत करूंगा कुछ सुरीले अंदाज में, क्योंकि मैंने आपको वादा किया था. जी हाँ फ्रेंड्स, इतनी मधुर संगीतमय शुरुआत के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आपका. and Vijayji for giving me an opportunity and giving note to start this session with on a musical note. Uh, Friends, as Vijayji has mandated me that I should be focusing mainly on the practical aspects rather than the theory, that does not mean that I'm not going to talk to you about the theory part. I am definitely going to speak to you about the theory part as well, but uh, इस पे मेरा गौर ज्यादा रहेगा. I'll be devoting more time on the practical examples. So ये रहा हमारा आज का संक्षिप्त में agenda, and this is what we are going to see now in about 110 slides, but my focus to reiterate will be on the practical number crunching. Chaliye, let's understand the whole gamut of consolidation and business combination. Let's first understand that today we are going to deal with Ind AS 110 consolidation. Now, friends, this standard deals with the consolidation. It defines the concept of the consolidation. कि consolidation कब करना है? When an entity should consolidate. जाहिर सी बात है. Obviously, when an entity has a control over the other entity, जब वो control करते हैं, तब entity has to do the consolidation. But before it starts consolidating, it has to do one thing. I believe there is one video open of Mr. Atma Thakanji. Please, can you, sir, please put off your video, sir? मेरी आपसे गुजारिश है, आपकी वीडियो बंद करेंगे, sir, please. Admin, sir, हाँ, please. So, 112 has two roles, two definitions, two aspects. A, define the concept of control, and going further, giving the consolidation procedures. Now, friends, there's something good news about it, that consolidation is more or less same as per the erstwhile IGAP. केवल बहुत बड़ा फर्क है, वो है business counting में, which is until now we were following the pooling of interest method. Amalgamation is 14 under the erstwhile old Indian accounting standards, not Indian accounting standard, existing standard. Now, Ind AS 103 lays down the basis for business combination accounting. जी हाँ दोस्तों, and that is the purchase method oblique in acquisition method and not the pooling of interest method. बहुत फर्क है सर, बहुत फर्क है. कल रात हमारी विजय जी का एक बात है कि हमेशा वो फैकल्टी के साथ सलाह मशवरा करते रहते हैं, ये सलाह देते, वो सलाह देते. तो उन्होंने कहा क्यों नहीं सर हमारे लिए एक स्पेशल एग्जांपल कॉइन किया जाए. एंड I mean, respecting him, I coined one example सिर्फ और सिर्फ आपके लिए. बहुत रोचक बातें बताऊंगा आपको during this 3 hours time, but be attentive. And one more thing, the Excel sheet where I'm going to do the working is bound to be and is going to be shared with all of you, including this presentations also. Don't worry, we are there to impart the knowledge. So I've done one example, a comprehensive example of Ind AS 103. Now, Ind AS 103 lays down the accounting procedures for business combination, purchase method, oblique acquisition method. अब देखिए मजा ऐसी बात है, एक काउंटर के हिसाब से समझाता हूँ. काउंटर नंबर 110 पे गए आप और आपने अपना पर्चा दिया, अपना एप्लीकेशन फॉर्म दिया, बोला सर देखो हमारे पास कंट्रोल है कि नहीं. तो वो देखता है काउंटर नंबर 10, yes you have the exposure to or right to the variable returns with your involvement with the entity, with the involvement with the investor, and has right to use these powers for these returns. तो वो कहते कि yes, you have a control, you have all the requisites of control because you are currently able to utilize your powers which is currently exercisable for the present powers available with you. So fine. So then I say, okay, now sir, let me do the consolidation. So 1110 counter says, no, you cannot do consolidation. I said, why? Because you only told me that if you have a control, you should consolidate. So sir, I am ready for the consolidation. What stops me? What I have done wrong? He said, no, you missed out something. I said, so please guide me what I have missed out. So go to counter number 103. I said, counter number 103? Yeah, what's वो counter का नाम है business combination. So I went to business combination. So business combination standards say, you have a certificate from 110. Asset says, I have a certificate. I have a control. I have the power to control entity B. So I want to go for consolidation. He said, no, you cannot do consolidation like this. You need to do business combination accounting, and that is given in the counter number 3 in days 103 that lays down the business combination. Only after that you should go for consolidation. And बताऊंगा आपको कैसे acquiry की बैलेंस शीट बदलती है, कैसे गुडविल किया जाता है, कैसे एनसीआई को मेजर किया जाता है, कैसे I mean how you're accounting for the gain from bargain purchase. ये तमाम बातें बताऊंगा आपको ये 3 घंटे के दौरान. So let's start with 110, which lays down the basis for control, and the definition is much more different. So this is what you can see. We'll see the definition of consolidation, concept of control, change of control and lose of control, accounting treatment, and all this. So this all animation is not created by me. It is created by my cousin's son, Pratik Desai. मैं तो सिर्फ standard के contents जानता हूँ, sir. All right, sir. So we have seen that first, let's see what kind of subsidiaries are. So there is one thing is a direct subsidiary, then there's a step down subsidiary. Suppose A holds 60% in B, then B is a direct subsidiary. And if B has a subsidiary shares in C, then C is a step down subsidiary. So this gives the whole gamut of subsidiary. This is the direct. Let me try this thing. Friends, am I audible, sir? हेलो सर.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. कुछ भी तब्दीली है तो मुझे बिना झिझक बता दीजिए. I am there to correct myself.
Yes, sir.
So one is a direct subsidy, second is a step down subsidy, and this is the fellow subsidy. तो ये subsidy के 3 विभिन्न प्रकार है. These are 3 types of subsidies. Now let's see the definition of consolidated financial statement is of a group in which assets, liabilities, income, expenses, and cash flows of the are presented as sum. Now देखिए, very important, sir. Separate financial statement definition is different because the Ind AS talks about equity method for the JVs and associates, even in even in some other statement which they say it may be called as a consolidated financial statement. The financial statement is presented by a parent. So that means for a separate financial statement to be qualified, to be nomenclated, it must be presented by a parent or an investor with a joint control or a significant influence, in which investments are accounted for at cost or in accordance with financial statements. So that means basically if an entity which does not have a subsidiary, which does not have associates or the JVs, their statements are not known as a separate financial statements. Fine, sir. So the main object is define the control. Now this standard is not applicable. सर किसी का वीडियो सर चालू रह जाता है. एडमिन सर प्लीज आप देखिए, थोड़ी तब्दीली हो जाती है मुझे डिलीवरी में, प्लीज. Then this standard is not applicable to the post employment benefit and all this. एक बहुत बड़ा बदलाव है. Yes sir. As compared to existing age, I wouldn't say I gap, because Ind AS भी अभी I gap ही हो गए. तो ये है investment entity. An investment entity, even if it has a control over the other entity, it still cannot or may not need to consolidate this other investee. Conditions apply. Very basic condition is that an investment entity, as you can see, it need not apply it need not consolidate the investee, बावजूद से, despite the fact that it has a control over the investee, provided it has decided to measure all its investment in subsidiaries, so-called subsidiaries, at fair value through profit and loss account. Mind you well, they're not fair value at OCI, not fair value at OCI, sir. It is only fair value at profit and loss account. So remember, an investment entity need not consolidate, need not apply the consolidation. Anyone need not apply 103 business combination accounting, provided it is decided to measure investment in subsidiaries at FVTPL. फ्रेंड्स, ये 737 शेयर जो गए, इसमें बहुत लोगों ने बहुत हेल्प भी की है. जैसे आज की मेरी पीपीटी में हमारे एक बहुत ही बेहतरीन फ्यूचर पोटेंशियल रैंक होल्डर मिस्टर प्रेम सरवैया ने भी काफी हेल्प की मुझे. आई मस्ट This is the basic standard consolidation exemption. I'm not going to go into deep, but basically, why I'm not going to do it, because this is mainly applicable to the non-listed entities. So if an entity is listed, it is going to be applicable regardless of all this. So anyway, it's after that. Now let's come to the control. Where we've seen when an investor has rights to, or he's exposed to, or rights to the variable returns. Now, what are the returns? Variable returns from his investment for his involvement with the investee and has ability to impact. So what is important, sir? Sir, this exposed to and rights to is nothing but risk and reward. So you will be responsible for the losses and you will be awarded for the returns, positive returns, profits, capital appreciation. Ultimately, money is flowing into you, and that's what we are in. And very important, it should be able to exercise those power. Then we'll see what are the powers, what the power should be about. Power should be about the relevant activities. देखिए मेरे पास control है 65% का, but if I have right to appoint couriers, if I right to appoint the clerks, if I right to appoint the canteen manager, so then do you call it is a relevant activity? Do you think that this power of mine is going to impact my returns? Or sorry, variable returns, the returns which are capable of being varied, which are not fixed return. अगर fixed return है किसी का and मेरे पास 90% control है, तो भी वो कुछ मायने नहीं रखता है. Why? Because there's a fixed control. I cannot use my prerogative, my rights, and my wisdom, my discretion to impact those returns. I am sorry, those returns are what returns, sir? Variable returns. Fine, sir. So very key factor is relevant activities, variable returns, and risk and reward. Later on, they will see that they're exposed. These are currently exercisable. The currently exercisable power. अगर 10 साल के बाद मुझे power मिलता है तो कुछ मायने नहीं रखते सर. But this power should be exercisable today. If I have an option, that option does not give me power to use my voting power today, then it's of no use. It's going to be usable only if it's currently exercisable. So very important. The ability, 3 ingredients: power over the investee is exposure or right to variable returns, and very important, concurrently important, इतना ही अहम है कि the ability to use the power over the investee to affect the amount of returns. Very important, sir. Now these are the various elements of control. Control हासिल किया जाता है by view of an agreement, by view of majority of holding of the shares, then by way of majority holding of shares, then sometime the power to appoint the majority of the directors on the board of the company. So these are ingredients of power. Sir, एक बहुत है जो I feel like discussing, and there's a defect to control. The actual name is the correct meaning is infect control. Now this happens when investor A has got, say, 15 to 20% holding in a company, and balance it is widely spread. किसी के पास 0.00001% है, किसी के पास 0.02 है, like the Tata Sons. So there, the rest of the holdings are very widely spread. So this is known as the de facto control. But now let us take another scenario. Mr. A has got 20% and B, C, D, E, F. Keval 5 people had got rest 80%. This is not called the de facto control. Anyway, friends, these are all to decide who has the control. Because if you have the control, then you apply 103. Then you apply 103 unless you are an investment entity, and equally important, you have decided to measure investment in subsidiaries at FVTPL, not FVTOCI. FVTOCI stands for fair value through other comprehensive income. FVTPL stands for fair value through profit and loss account. Okay, sir. So investor is exposed to or has a right to returns is अच्छा फ्रेंड्स, एक है इफ दिस सब्सिडरी. अच्छा नाउ एडमिन जी, मुझे थोड़ा चैट पे जरा दीजिए, एक्सेस दीजिए. मैं आज अभी थोड़ा चैट का इस्तेमाल करूंगा केवल 5 मिनट के लिए सर, because I want to have response from my audience. What if this subsidiary is an LLP? Subsidiary LLP है तो is it is it necessary to consolidate subsidiary? Hello? Yes, someone has said yes. Okay, Rupal has said yes, and yes. No, you're not yes. Yes, you're right. You are absolutely right. LLP, yeah, even partnership firm, if they are subsidiaries, they have to be consolidated. They have to be consolidated. Very good answer. And I would say Mugembo Kushwa. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I want this to be interactive. All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Oh, damn it. Huh. And there has to be a link between power and all this. Sir, ये सब theoretical concepts are equally important, no denying. But when in the practical parlance, जब आपको कोई काम मिलता है, जब कुछ साइन में मिलता है, तब ये बात मोस्टली तय हो चुकी होती है कि आपको ये सब्सिडी करनी है. और ये जो सब बातें हैं ना, सब बड़ी बड़ी कंपनी, ह्यूज जो कॉर्पोरेट्स, वहां पे प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है. लाइक आई स्टिल रिमेंबर बैक इन 2011 when we were given a chance to deal with to impart training with the Bangalore International Airport Limited, BIAL. And at that point of time, there was a lot of confusion and a lot of deliberations and discussion about whether I don't want to give the name of another company, whether the India-based company A or B should consolidate, or Europe-based company should that the airline should consolidate or not. So there were a lot of debate about that. But and there could be many reasons for consolidation and not consolidation. वो consolidation अच्छा ही है या बुरा है, वो determine करना मुश्किल है. It all depends on what you need, what the management, what the company needs. All right, so basically ये सब चीजें हैं सर. तो then protective rights, एक और भी rights है जिसका नाम है protective right. वो right दिए जाते हैं mostly the lenders. So protected rights do not matter much, only the substantive right which are currently exercisable. So friends, okay, एक नया concept है sir, and I think अगर मैं इसको नहीं छेड़ता तो मैं अपने आप को माफ नहीं कर पाता, but मैंने रखा था आपको ध्यान के लिए, सिर्फ और सिर्फ आपके लिए. Now let us see. I rarely read the PPTs, but आज मन करता है कि ये PPT at least I should read with you. An entity that has been designed so that the voting or similar rights are not dominant factor in deciding who controls the entity, such as when any voting right relates to administrative staff only and the relevant activities are directed. जी हाँ दोस्तों, यहाँ पे आए जिक्र वो relevant activities का जो मैं कर रहा था. Relevant activities are those which are critical in decision making, in corporate strategies, whether to acquire this company or not. यहाँ से JV किया जाता है कि नहीं, इसके साथ MOU, I mean, should we open a branch there, should we start this business here or not. So all very critical decisions which impacts now I'm asking question to all my participants, which impacts which return, which impacts which return. Variable returns, absolutely correct answer. Variable returns, absolutely correct answer. Someone has said that LLP is already taken into account, but it all depends on terms and conditions, how the profit sharing are being done, how the profit after certain things are taken into capital account or reserves and all these. So it all depends on what are the terms of the LLP as far as sharing is concerned. But you have a point, gentlemen who raised this point, and I must mention his name. His name is C.A. Rasik Singhania. Rasik bhai, your point is a very valid point. I must tell you one thing, that we have a chartered accountant with us, Mr. Abhi Desai, and he had done the consolidation of partnership firms and the proportionate consolidation of the JVs, which are the partnership firm. We normally partnership firm in iska consolidation karna is little difficult. Like the way Mr. Rasik has said, sometimes you take all this into account already by virtue of the accretion to your capital, which is nothing but the accretion to your income. Fine. There's a lot about this which can be discussed, but Rasik, I appreciate. Thank you so much. All right. So the point is, structured entities are, in other words, can anyone give me the name of the structured entity? I know I'm there to help you out, but स्ट्रक्चर्ड एंटिटी का एक अलग नाम भी होता है, एंड दैट इज नोन एज व्हाट? आंसर माय क्वेश्चन. स्ट्रक्चर्ड एंटिटीज आर आल्सो समटाइम नोन एज स्पेशल पर्पस व्हीकल. बिल्कुल रसिक जी, आप छाए हुए हैं. क्या बात है रसिक, बहुत रसिक आदमी है आप. व्हाट इज इट? Liaison? No, not the liaison office. Not the liaison. It's a SPV, special workers vehicle. In US, they call the entity of the variable interest. Examples are securitization vehicle, asset backed, which is nothing but the SPVs. So, जिसमें sir, holding does not make much difference. Even if you have 5% holding, you still control what sir? You control the relevant activities. आप relevant activity ऐसे control करते हैं कि आपका वो भले 90% हो, कुछ मायने नहीं रखता है, बिकॉज की आपके पास है, चाबी आपके पास है. सो इवन एसपीवीज आर टू बी कंसोलिडेटेड. व्हाट इज द जेनेसिस, व्हाट इज द बेसिस? केवल परसेंटेज नहीं है कि 10%, 40%, 50%. बात है कंट्रोल, वेदर यू आर कंट्रोल द relevant activities, ultimately to control what sir? Variable returns. Okay, so these are known as this is a new concept. तो मुझे लगा कि कुछ बातें हो जाए. सर अब बात करते हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी. एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी इवन इफ इट कंट्रोल्स, मैंने कहा, बट किसे कहते हैं इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी? क्या गुणधर्म है? व्हाट आर द सेलिएंट फीचर्स ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी? देखते हैं हम और आप साथ में. कंप्यूटर जी बताइए हमें इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटीज किसे कहते हैं? It obtains funds from one or more investors. It has got one or more investment also. Investor and investment. Can you see here? More than one investment, more than one investor. Very important, sir. It has investors that are not related to the entity, not related parties of the entity. That means if husband, wife, if parent subsidiary become investor, then they are not considered to be the investment entity, and it has ownership interest in the form of equity of some others. That means not investment in debentures or loan or a debt instrument. That has to be kind of a equity nature. So very important, sir. Measures and evaluate performance of the substantially all of investment at a fair value basis. Now, fair value here I mentioned earlier is FVTPL only and not FVTOCI. So these entities do not account for the business combination, and as a sequel thereto, do not account for the investment, do not account for the consolidation. Yes. बट सवाल ये पैदा होता है कि व्हाट इफ दिस एंटिटी सीज टू बी एन इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी? जी हाँ, it's quite possible that this entity may not be an investment entity forever. So what has happened that since it was an investment entity, it has a control on variable returns, exposure, rights, everything. But since it's decided to measure the investment in subsidiaries at a fair value, there was no question of consolidation. Now, what apparent that allow me sir 1 minute. Why this is ting tong? Is it? I'll change it maybe because of the WhatsApp. I'll shut it off. So apparent that either ceases to be an investment entity or become an investment entity account. So whether there is any change. So it can be, there are two possibilities. You are an investment entity, okay, and you cease to be an investment entity, or you are not an investment entity but now has become investment entity. So in the first place, the accounting treatment is to be applied prospectively. Understand? Conceptually. Now, Ind AS, now it shall apply Ind AS subsequently the previous measure. Okay. Now, when it was an investment entity and it ceases to be an investment entity, so it has to now apply Ind AS 103. So on the date, on 16th August 2020, an entity ceased to be an investment entity, and at that point in time, you have to apply 103. क्यों apply करना है? क्यों नहीं पहले? Because initially when you had a control, despite the fact that you had a control, you didn't apply 103 because you have decided to measure the investment in subsidiaries at fair value through profit and loss account. But now, since there are no more investment entity, you have to apply 103, and 103 deals with the business combination, asking an entity to apply the acquisition oblique the purchase method. And क्या है purchase method में, कौन होता है acquirer, कौन होती है acquiree, क्या करता है acquirer acquiree की बैलेंस शीट के साथ, क्या छेड़छाड़ करता है acquiree के बैलेंस साथ, तमाम चीजें बताऊंगा आपको 10-15 मिनट के बाद. करेक्ट सर? सो तब तक प्लीज इंतजार कीजिए वेरी एक्साइटेड 103 के लिए. All right. Now, now what happens, sir? This company had acquired investment back 4 years back, and today you're going to be you cease to be investment entity. So investments की value कब की लेनी है? Today or 4 years back? Answer is today. Answer is today, and the date of change of status shall be deemed to be the acquisition date. क्या बेहतरीन अल्फाज दिए हैं इस स्लाइड में. एक्विजिशन डेट को करता है acquirer की बैलेंस शीट के साथ कुछ छेड़छाड़. क्या छेड़छाड़ बताऊंगा आपको. Okay, so the date when entity ceases to be an investment entity, that becomes the acquisition date, and the date, the fair value of subsidiary shall be the deemed acquisition, deemed consideration. So आज की तारीख में जो fair value होगी investment in subsidiary, those will be considered as an investment or the consideration to acquire the company. चलिए सर, कंप्यूटर जी आगे बढ़ते हैं, हमारी रफ्तार आगे बढ़ाते हैं, and let us see. So okay. Now एक बहुत अहम चीज है, an investment entity की subsidiary अगर investment entity है तो क्या होता है. Okay. Now, an investment entity need not consolidate the subsidiaries and apply 103 when it obtain the control over it, rather it shall mention. But unless an investment entity has a subsidiary that provides the same kind of services that relates to the investment entity, then it has to consolidate. So let us take the two situations. Situation A. Situation A, सर मुझे एक बात पता है कि हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स का लव मुझे पता है. वो चाहते हैं किसे सर? वो चाहते हैं एक्सेल शीट को बहुत चाहते हैं. यस और नो पार्टिसिपेंट्स? यस. एक्सेल का प्रति आपका लगाव मुझे विदित है, and I'm aware of it. So this is entity A, and again entity A. This is situation 1. This is situation 2. Situation number 2. Okay, entity A is it is an investment entity. It is an investment entity, and it has a subsidiary B. It is a subsidiary B here. Now, in this case, this B is also.
Sir, the Excel file is not visible.
Not visible. अरे माफ कीजिएगा. सर अभी दर्शन होता है एक्सेल फाइल का?
Yes.
करिए चलिए. क्षमा कीजिए. Thank you for your interruption. Very timely. Situation 1, situation 2. क्षमा कीजिएगा मित्रों. दोनों में है. कंपनी A is a parent company, investor, and this is investee. Now here, in both the cases, investor is an investment entity, but in both the cases, B is a subsidiary, which is now there is a difference. This is an investment entity. This is an investment entity, and this is a non-investment entity. So here, company A has to apply 103 and also do the consolidation Here, no 103 and no consolidation. Clear, sir? So ये है change. Friends, just tell me one thing. You understood this concept of investment entity and consolidation? Yes or no? मुझे प्रतिसाद चाहिए आपका, क्योंकि ये वेबिनार में क्या होता है सर, since I have not been able to see you, मेरा और आपका माध्यम केवल एक ही है, एंड वो है चैट के माध्यम से. वरना सर अब तक हम बतौर फैकल्टी बात करते थे, अभी तो हम बतौर एक एक्टर की भी भूमिका निभानी पड़ती है. मुझे लगता है कि आप सामने बैठे हैं सर, एंड आई हैव टू सी हेलो यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस और नॉट, एंड दैट आई कैन गेट फ्रॉम यू ओनली थ्रू द माध्यम ऑफ योर चैट. ओके सर, तो इसके जरिए एक हमारा वार्तालाप, हमारा कनेक्टिंग इंडिया चालू रखिए सर, है ना सर. एंड जहां तक आपकी क्वेरीज का सवाल है, बिल्कुल सॉल्व करेंगे सर, बिल्कुल सॉल्व करेंगे सर. सो वो से नो, Preeti, to everyone, no. Okay, Preeti, आपका प्रतिशत किसी और के लिए लगता है, not मेरे लिए. So this is, have you understood this, that if an entity is an investment entity, it has a subsidiary which is again an investment entity, it should consolidate, correct? And also applied as a precursor to that in Ind 103. But if it is an investment entity and it has a subsidiary which is a non-investment entity, then it need not apply 103, it need not apply consolidation. मुझे केवल 5 लोगों का प्रतिशत चाहिए. Have you understood this? Yes or no, Prince? Rasik bhai, have you understood? Okay, okay. Someone said more clarification on this concept. Concept ये है कि investment entity. अब देखिए investment entity के गुणधर्म क्या है? More than one investor, more than one investee, और कोई नहीं. एक शब्द में दूंगा तो आप तुरंत समझ जाएंगे. Private equity. अगर प्राइवेट इक्विटी हर जगह पे whenever they are making an investment as an angel investment in investor, correct? तो क्या होगा सर? Their side business will be to the consolidation, their main business and side business will be to do the investment. So the investment entity, mutual fund entities, they are not supposed to consolidate provided they have an investment, they decided to measure the uh, uh, इन्वेस्टमेंट एट फेयर वैल्यू. सर यहाँ एक बात जरूर है कि सिचुएशन टू एन एंटिटी इज इन्वेस्टर, बी इज अ नॉन इन्वेस्टमेंट कंपनी, and very important, it has decided to measure the investment in subsidiaries at FVTPL. ये बहुत ही अहम है, correct sir? So now the gentleman who asked me units and the clarity, मैं चाहता हूं कि आपको ये बात समझ में आई, नहीं आई तो फिर हम बाद में फिर से आपको समझाएंगे. Sir, can you see the PPT slide, sir, before you? Yes, admin sir, please बताइए, आप PPT देख सकते हैं, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you, thank you. विजय जी, ये तो आपकी आवाज है. All right. Now let us say parent of investment entities to control. सर यहाँ पे थोड़ा थियरी पे भी मैं थोड़ा गौर करूंगा, क्योंकि मैं समझता हूँ कि थोड़ा अहम है. It is important. A new concept. A parent of an investment entity shall consolidate all that it controls, including those controlled through an investment entity subsidiary, unless the parent itself is an entity. Okay, चलिए सर चलते हैं वापस, हम प्रयाण करते हैं, वापस हम रुक करते हैं वही हमारे एक्सेल के लिए. ओके सर, नाउ लेट अस सी एक्सेल. अगर एक्सेल दिखता है तो मुझे सिर्फ चैट में बोलिए कि यस वी आर सीइंग द एक्सेल, दैट्स इट. You can see the Excel. Yes, बोलिए तो मैं आगे बढ़ूंगा. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. All right, now let us see. Now let us read parent. Parent A is a non-investment entity. Okay, sir, it's a non-investment entity. Okay, it has a subsidiary which is an investment subsidiary, investment entity. Now this B also has a subsidiary, and this is again an investment entity, correct sir? So my question to you, and this investment entity is naturally measuring this investment at FVTPL. FVTPL. तो मुझे बताइए, my question to you जनता जनार्दन is, कंप्यूटर जी प्रश्न पूछा जाए जनता को, will entity B consolidate entity C? Will entity B consolidate entity C? Yes, it will consolidate, right sir? It will consolidate. All right, now let us take one more example. Very good answers, very good answer. Now this is entity D, which is a non-investment entity. Okay, and C has decided to measure at the FVTPL. C has decided to measure at the FVTPL. Now my question to you sir, will क्या C consolidate करेंगे D को? Will C consolidate D? No. बिल्कुल सही जवाब, बिल्कुल सही जवाब. कंप्यूटर जी सबको 10,000 का इनाम दिया जाए. चलिए सर. विजय भाई, we have to be very careful, हाँ, बहुत खर्चा होगा आपको. Okay, so now C will not consolidate D. Now what is the scheme? What is the scheme of consolidation? A subsidiaries, B की subsidiary है, C की subsidiary है, D. So for A, B is a direct subsidiary, C is a step down subsidiary, and D is a step down subsidiary. Yes or no? Fine. But A being a non-investment entity, it has to consolidate all the entities. जी हाँ, चाहे वो इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी जो बीच वाली जो छोटी छोटी कंपनी है, इंटरमीडिएट पेरेंट्स, whether they do this consolidation or not, A has to still consolidate O. And now let us read this sentence. Now let us read this sentence. कंप्यूटर जी हमारी स्लाइड हमें वापस लौटा दो, हमारी स्लाइड हमें वापस लौटा दो। लौटा दी कंप्यूटर जी ने। अब स्लाइड का अंतिम हिस्सा पढ़ते हैं सर। अरे भाई मेरे, हाँ, ओके। A parent of an investment entity, B and C are investment entities. So a parent of B and C shall consolidate all entities that it controls, including those controlled through investment entity B and C, unless the parent itself is an investment entity. हमारे यहाँ तो सर parent तो investment entity है नहीं, correct sir? Parent तो हमारे investment entity है नहीं, so it has to now do this consolidation. I hope guys this concept of the last para is clear to you. मुझे प्रतिसाद चाहिए आपका, मुझे आपका हमिंग साउंड चाहिए, मुझे चाहिए यस और नो, तो ही मैं आगे बढ़ूंगा, वरना नहीं बढ़ूंगा। Then A will consolidate. बिल्कुल सही जवाब, बिल्कुल सही जवाब। मैं वो बहुत छोटे हैं, I could not read the name of the person, but what you say, so A will then consolidate B, C and D. Got my point, sir? चलिए, very good understanding, very good cooperation, rather I would say. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much. चलिए कंप्यूटर जी, हमारे अगली स्लाइड पे प्रयाण करते हैं। Change in control and loss of control. सर एंटिटी, अच्छा सर एक बात था, पता नहीं क्यों बट मुझे आपके बिन बोले शब्दों की आवाज सुनाई दी और ऐसा लगा कि आप चाहते कि सर इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी पे मैं पूरा संक्षिप्त में आपको एक छोटा सा दौर करा दूं। सर ठीक है, बता दूं सर। इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी इज एन एंटिटी which in principle measures investment in subsidiaries at fair value through profit and loss account. If it has another subsidiary which is the non-investment entity, then this exemption of not to visit 103 and not to apply 110 for consolidation applies. But if an investment entity has a subsidiary which itself is an investment entity, okay, then investment entity must consolidate its investment subsidiary, even if it decides to measure at FVTPL. वो मायने नहीं रखता है सर, वो मायने नहीं रखता है सर, ठीक है? So you have to do that. Investment entity need not apply 103. प्रीति जी आप वीडियो डिसेबल कीजिए, प्रीति जी विनती है आप वीडियो डिसेबल कीजिए, धन्यवाद। इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी चूंकि it can claim exemption, it is exempted by 110, it has not applied 103 and consequently not applied even the consolidation. But when it ceases to be an investment entity, जो इन्वेस्टमेंट एंटिटी नहीं रहती है फॉर वॉट एवर रीजंस, वो इन्वेस्टर्स एसोसिएट हो गए या तो इन्वेस्टर्स यू नो more than one investor के कम कर दिए, and very important, it is decided not to measure the subsidies at FVTPL, then it has to apply 103 and also there apply the consolidation, and the date when it decides to when it ceases to be an investment entity, the date when it ceases to be an investment entity, that date is known as the acquisition date, and on that day जो भी fair value है investment in subsidiary ये जो गिनी जाएंगी as a consideration, and sorry नहीं, it's okay बाबा, प्रीति जी कोई बात नहीं, हो इस बहाने आपके दर्शन हो गया मैं कोई बात नहीं, absolutely no worry, गलती से मिस्टेक होती रहती। ऑलराइट सब, अब करते हैं चेंज इन कंट्रोल एंड लॉस ऑफ कंट्रोल। तो देखते हैं कि चेंज इन कंट्रोल लॉस ऑफ कंट्रोल में क्या होता है। चलो जस्ट द कैरिंग आउट कंट्रोलिंग। सर एक बात है कि लेट अस सी चेंज इन कंट्रोल, So let us take a situation that you were holding 70% and you had a control, and now you divested 15% and still have a control. No need to do any accounting, because it is just internally a change between the owners and the NCI. NCI stands for non-controlling interest. NCI stands for non-controlling interest. So केवल internal change होता है. Any gains and losses in such cases are not recognized in the P&L count, but rather adjusted in the equity. Basically, P&L में नहीं आते. But when you lose the control, 670 से आपके investment हो गए हैं 30%, and आपके पास control नहीं है, then how to account for it? We'll see that. So in that case, these are recognized in the income statement. So if parent loses the control of a subsidiary of a parent, it derecognizes assets and liabilities of the formal subsidiary, recognize any investment in these 30% जो investment है उसका वो fair value गिनेंगे, and then again recognize the gain and losses associated, gain and losses जो भी कुछ है P&L हो गए. And एक बात बहुत जरूरी है सब, statement of cash flow में when you lose a control, and you get some money, the inflows, that is known to be classified as investment activities and not as financing activities. So when you reduce from 70 to 30, whatever money you receive as the proceeds of the shares in the former subsidiary is to be classified as an investing activity. But when you sell 20% and still control, 70 से 15% बेचे and 55 is still with you, you're not losing the control, that money will be known to be classified as a financing activities, mind you well. So ये बहुत important है, financing में जाते के कहाँ जाते सर. Okay, computer जी कोई लौटा दे मेरे बीती हुई slide. So de-recognize assets including goodwill, carrying amount of non-controlling interest. सर ये तो है आपके पास, आप भी पढ़ेंगे, मैं भी पढ़ूंगा, मगर चलिए गौर करते हैं एक प्रैक्टिकल एग्जांपल के. मेरे ख्याल से एक एग्जांपल यहीं पे है. आई विल फाइंड इट आउट सर. अच्छा सर, देन बात करते हैं कंसोलिडेशन की. अब देखिए ऐसा है, यहाँ पे थोड़ा मैं ब्रेक लूंगा. वो ब्रेक किसके लिए? इन टर्म्स ऑफ द पीपीटी. 110 ड्यूअल भूमिका निभाती है. A, defining the concept of control, and B, consolidation procedure. But इस दोनों के बीच में एक चीज है, and इसका नाम है business combination. तो कंसो कब करेंगे? जब आप 103 का सर्टिफिकेट लाएंगे. 110 ने आपको सर्टिफिकेट लिया, वत्स तेरे पास कंट्रोल है. तो वत्स कहा कि मैं कंसोलिडेट करता हूं सर, बिकॉज आप कंट्रोल का कॉन्सेप्ट भी देते हैं एंड कंसोलिडेशन का प्रोसीजर्स भी. तो बोला कि वट्स रुक जाओ, 103 के पास जाओ. 103 देती है आपको अकाउंटिंग ट्रीटमेंट फॉर द बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन. जी हाँ. सो अब गौर करते हैं, हम जाएंगे 103 में, एंड वो है बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन. देन घबराइए नहीं सर, हम अकाउंटिंग ट्रीटमेंट के बिल्कुल गौर करेंगे. एक नहीं 12 एग्जाम्पल्स है. जी हाँ, 1 डजन एग्जाम्पल्स है फॉर द कंसोलिडेशन एंड कवरिंग ऑल द गैमट. एनसीआई की रेट होती है क्या नहीं. तो मित्रों, फ्रेंड्स, अलाउ मी 2 minutes एंड आई विल कम बैक. आई विल गो टू 103 और वहां से हम और आप वापस लौटेंगे अकाउंटिंग ट्रीटमेंट में 110 के साथ में, and कुछ examples करेंगे सर. Okay, so allow me just 1 minute sir. 103. चलिए कंप्यूटर जी, हमको लेके जाइए. अब आप 103 में हम जा रहे सर. 103 में हम जा रहे, and I need to share what new share. हमारे एडमिन साहब, आपके सामने क्या है सर? कौन सी स्लाइड है?
103.
फैंटास्टिक. चलिए 103 बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट्स. मगर आपको लगता है कि हम थियरी को यूं ही छोड़ देंगे? बिल्कुल गलत बात सर, बिल्कुल गलत बात. हम प्रैक्टिकल से पहले थियरी तो जरूर देखना है, उससे मजा नहीं आएगी सर. चलिए, सो देखिए कंप्यूटर जी, हमारे पास क्या है. what business is there or what is business, elements of control जो हमने देखे वहां पे, determining the acquisition date, बहुत ही important है सर. संक्षेप में बताओ सर, acquirer क्या छेड़छाड़ कर दी है acquisition acquire की balance sheet से, बताओ सर. On the date of acquisition, acquirer shall remeasure all identifiable assets and liabilities, comma, other than goodwill in the acquiree to determine goodwill and or gain from bargain purchase, and shall remeasure all identifiable assets and liabilities. When I say remeasure, measure, remeasure at fair value on the date of acquisition. And that's why date of acquisition is very, very important. Then recognition of the measurement liabilities, all this acquisition related cost. हाँ, acquisition related cost की क्या treatment है सर? हमने एक कंपनी हासिल की, we had hired the valuer, we hired the lawyers, we hired the finders, and we paid the stamp duty, we paid everything. कैसी ट्रीटमेंट है एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट की? अब नहीं बताऊंगा आपको कुछ क्षणों के बाद, कुछ पलों के बाद. तब तक कीजिए इंतजार. क्या होती है ट्रीटमेंट अकाउंटिंग रिलेटेड कॉस्ट की, क्या होती है ट्रीटमेंट ऑफ द गुडविल, क्या होती है ट्रीटमेंट फ्रॉम द गेन फ्रॉम बार्गेन परचेज. इन तमाम बातों हम बताएंगे. वी विल डिस्कस ऑल द एस्पेक्ट्स in this next 1 or 2 hours. All right, computer जी, measurement period. जी हाँ, क्या होता है measurement period? क्या 1 साल का होता है, क्या 6 महीने का होता है, क्या 2 साल का होता है? क्या कर सकते हैं measurement period में? अगर measurement period खत्म होगा तो क्या करेंगे? ये भी तमाम मुद्दे हम डिस्कस करेंगे आपके साथ. जी हाँ. Subsequent measurement. जी हाँ, measurement period के बाद क्या होता है? वेरी गुड सर. एंड illustrations, बहुत ही रोचक स्लाइड्स, एग्जाम्पल्स. चलिए जी. ऑलराइट सर, कंट्रोल हासिल कर लिया. उससे पहले हम जाएंगे 103 में, जो हमें बताएंगे. कुछ क्षणों में हम देखेंगे 103 का क्या सिलसिला है सर, क्या बात है. पर उससे पहले संक्षिप्त में बता दें. हमने एक यहाँ पे टाइटल लिखा है, इंडिकेटर्स नॉट नेसेसरी लिमिट्स बाय द स्टैंडर्ड. सर ये गलती से ये मत समझिए कि वाईएमडी और स्टैंडर्ड्स का कहना ये है कि इतने प्रतिशत हुए तो आप ये यार्डस्टिक है, ब्राइट लाइन है. नो, दीज आर जस्ट इंडिकेटर्स. हम जानते हैं कि अप टू 20% ऑफ इन्वेस्टमेंट मेरा जब रहता है सर, तो मुझे इससे कंसोलिडेशन या इक्विटी मेथड की जरूरत नहीं है. बट इफ आई एम holding more than 20% but less than 50% and I presume to have this significant influence, then I have to apply Ind AS 28. अब सर एक और भी बात है सर, जो शायद आई एम सरप्राइज्ड एंड आई एम सॉरी अबाउट दैट कि मैं क्यों नहीं लिखा इसमें. हाँ, क्योंकि ये कंट्रोल की बात है एंड कंट्रोल जो जॉइंट कंट्रोल की बात है. मगर यहाँ पे बात छेड़ी है तो कह देता हूं कि इफ इट इज एन इन्वेस्टमेंट इन एसोसिएट, अगर ये इन्वेस्टमेंट एसोसिएट के हिसाब से वो तय होता है, देन यू विल अप्लाई इक्विटी मेथड इन द कंसोलिडेटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स. अब सर, अंडर द इंड एस ऑब्लिक IFRS, even if even for jointly controlled entities, joint venture, there are two types of joint arrangements. एक होता है joint venture and दूसरा है joint operation. So joint venture में you have to apply the equity method and not proportionate consolidation method. And for joint operation you have to apply the consolidation, not necessarily the proportionate. And अगर समय मिला तो उस पर भी 5 मिनट का गौर करूंगा. बहुत बहुत नवीन बात है, अच्छी बात है. So significant influence, and when you have a joint investment in joint venture, then you apply the equity method. And when you have control, presumably you have a control when your holding is more than 50%. Of course, it's a rebuttable assumption, but छोड़ो ना सब बात, कंट्रोल है तो आप कंसोलिडेट करेंगे, है ना सर. तो यू विल अप्लाई 103 एंड ऑल्सो यू अप्लाई द 110. तो ये एक पूर्व भूमिका है ऐसी. अच्छा सर, एक और भी वो बता दूं सर, ये इन्वेस्टमेंट का मसला जो है ना, ये सेपरेट फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स और कंसो फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स सर बहुत ही थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट मामला है सर. हाँ, प्रेजेंटेशन में एंड चौंक जाएंगे आप सब जब मैं बताऊंगा कि एक ही इन्वेस्टमेंट्स in a separate financial statement you classify as a financial assets, but वही investment when it comes to the कंसोलिडेटेड फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स माय डियर फ्रेंड वो फाइनेंशियल एसेट्स नहीं रहते। जी हाँ दोस्तों, आपको पैराग्राफ समेत बताऊंगा कि क्यों ऐसा होता है सर, है ना। एंड ये पैराग्राफ है डिवीजन 2 शेड्यूल 3 टू द कंपनीज एक्ट। दोस्तों एक और भी एक हिदायत दे दूं आपको कि इफ यू रियली वांट टू बी अ मास्टर ऑफ इंडेस, इसीलिए तो यहाँ पे आए हैं, then as far as we Indians are concerned, we must read and master the guidance note for preparation and presentation of the financial statements, which is given in division 2 schedule 3 to the companies act। सर ये इसके चप पे चप आप पढ़ लीजिए। जी हाँ। एंड कई बार क्या होता है सर, स्टैंडर्ड में कुछ चीजें नहीं लिखी जाती। फॉर एग्जांपल व्हेन इट कम्स टू द करंट एंड नॉन करंट लायबिलिटीज, पैराग्राफ 133 ऑफ इंड एस 19 से नरोवा कुंजोवा, दैट मींस वो कहते हैं कि नहीं आपको जो करना है करा, मैं चुप हूं। हाँ, when it comes to the classification of the defined benefit obligation of employee benefits, वो कहते हैं कि आपको जो करना है करो। सर अगर हमारे एमसीए आपको करने देंगे, एमसीए कहते हैं कि नहीं सर आप तो पैराग्राफ 7 ऑफ डिवीजन 2 शेड्यूल 3 पढ़िए, उसमें हमने लिखा है कि इसका वर्गीकरण कैसे होना चाहिए, क्लासिफिकेशन कैसे होना चाहिए। सो वन हिदायत which is out of the box and out of the context but inevitable, do read division 2 schedule 3 of the companies act, बहुत ही important है। now starts 103, tight your seat belts and relax. Keep your mind here. Be focused. It requires business combinations to be by applying the acquisition/purchase method. Ind AS 103 is applicable only when you have a certificate from 110. 110 का सर्टिफिकेट क्या है? वत्स तेरे पास कंट्रोल है, मेरे पास माँ है, मेरे पास कंट्रोल है। ऑलराइट, अब मगर ये क्या कर सब कहते हैं कि फॉर अ बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन अंडर द कॉमन कंट्रोल यू आर अप्लाइंग इन अपेंडिक्स सी। और सर अपेंडिक्स सी क्या बला है? जी हाँ वो ही बला है, हमारी पहली थी इज 14 application of the common pool, covering the pool of interest method, which is nothing but the amalgamation। तो आज भी हिंदुस्तान में केवल 103 amalgamation is applicable only for those entities which are under the common control। But at least हमारे अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड बोर्ड ने एक बहुत अच्छी बात कही है, that if the entities are involving the common under the common control, then at least हमारे 103 ने कहा है इंडेस के भाई क्या करना क्या नहीं करना, आपको असमंजस में नहीं छोड़ा। they have not left you in the lurch। it has said very clearly that if entities are under common control, then you apply appendix C, and they said very clearly it is the pooling of interest method। but at international level IFRS 3 it simply says IFRS 3 will not be applicable to entities involved in the common control। इतना करके छोड़ दिया, अब क्या करना आप पे जाने। तो हमने तो इतना विजडम बताया कि भाई अगर ये है तो ये अप्लाई करो, ये है तो ये अप्लाई कीजिए, है ना। अब एक अच्छी बात कहूं सर, द लेटेस्ट डेवलपमेंट ऑफ एट IFRS लेवल, एट IACB लेवल इज दैट दे आर नाउ रिकंसिडरिंग कि उसके लिए कौन सी ट्रीटमेंट दी जाए, एंड इट इज इन अ डिस्कशन पेपर स्टेज एंड देन इट विल बी इन द एक्सपोजर ड्राफ्ट, बट कुछ करने वाले हैं सर। अच्छा सर ये स्टैंडर्ड जो है 103 is not applicable to the joint ventures, joint control, as acquisition of assets which do not constitute business, and again sir 110 की हमारी वो entity कौन सी entity? investment entity। yes sir it is not applicable to that। चलिए ठीक है सर, ये जानना बहुत जरूरी। अच्छा सर ये क्या बला है? हाँ ये बला हमारी वो है एंटिटीज अंडर कॉमन कंट्रोल। देखिए हमारे पेरेंट जो है वो ABCD के सब के पेरेंट है। अब जब A हस्तगत करती है B को और D हस्तगत करती है E को, तो when A is acquiring B and D is acquiring E, it amounts to acquisition of entities under common control। देखिए उनकी डेफिनेशन क्या बखूबी से दी है। A business combination involving entities or business under common control is a business combination in which all of the combining entities or business are ultimately controlled by the same party or the parties before and after। ये हस्तगत की ए ने बी को या डी ने बी को किए, उससे पहले भी और बाद भी, क्या लाइफ इंश्योरेंस के जैसे, जिंदगी के साथ भी जिंदगी के बाद भी। सो मैं कहूंगा एक्विजिशन के पहले भी और एक्विजिशन के बाद भी कंट्रोल एक ही पेरेंट में रहता है। तो कंट्रोल इज नॉट ट्रांजिशनरी, इट इज नॉट transited from the ultimate parent, and this is known as entities under common control, and you will not apply business combination, sorry, we not apply the acquisition method, but you'll apply the common pooling of interest method. Okay sir? Okay, समझे गए हो सर? सर ऑल ऑफ यू अब अंटिल नाउ समझे कि नहीं, हाँ के ना बताओ प्लीज। जनता जनार्दन, मैं आपसे अभी ओपिनियन लेना चाहता हूँ। आर यू कंफर्टेबल? यस और नो? मेरे ख्याल से हम एग्जैक्टली 1 hour ऑफ माय डेलिब्रेशन विथ यू, ये मेरा आपके साथ सानिध्य एक 1 hour। बताइए सर आपका कंफर्टेबल कैसा है? यस, गुड और बैड? गुड और बैड प्लीज? स्टार्टिंग गुड, वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड। मुगाम्बो खुश हो गया। कोई भी तब्दीली है तो प्लीज बताइए सर, कोई भी तब्दीली है तो प्लीज बताइए। बी वोकल अबाउट योर प्रॉब्लम्स, है ना? बी वोकल अबाउट लोकल नहीं, बी वोकल अबाउट योर प्रॉब्लम ऑल्सो। जी हाँ दोस्तों, बहुत रसिक बनाएंगे हम आज के प्रोग्राम को, और संगीतमय, क्योंकि संगीत से मैं बहुत रुचि रखता हूँ। हाँ, और हमारे मित्र विजय भाई भी बहुत रुचि रखते हैं। एंड सर एक बात है, IFRS पढ़ते हैं, इंडेस पढ़ते हैं, तो कहाँ लिखा है सर कि आप गंभीर मुद्रा धारण करके पढ़िए? है सर? हंसना मना थोड़ी है सर। हाँ, यू मस्ट एंजॉय द लाइफ टू द वर्क लाइक अ डोंकी, वर्क लाइक एंड एंजॉय लाइक अ किंग, है ना सर? या थैंक यू वेरी मच। सो ये हमारी कॉमन कंट्रोल की बात हो गई। अब आगे बढ़ते। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया, आपने मेरा हौसला बढ़ाया, हौसला अफजाई किया। तो ये है हमारे स्टेजेस ऑफ एक्विजिशन मेथड, डिटरमाइनिंग वेदर द ट्रांजैक्शन इज कंसिडर्ड। सर ये इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि यहाँ पे लिखा है कि एक्विजिशन ऑफ असेट्स और ग्रुप ऑफ असेट्स दैट डू नॉट कंस्टिट्यूट बिजनेस, उसको ये एप्लीकेबल नहीं होता है। व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय ये? 103। सो अब देखते हैं यहाँ पे आइडेंटिफाई द एक्वायरर। सर बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है। कभी कश्मकश होती है, कौन होता है एक्वायरर, मैं या तू? उसमें बहुत तू में होती है सर। हाँ, जब तू में होती है तब बताऊंगा कौन जीतता है। कौन से है वो पैरामीटर्स जो आपको कहते हैं कि भाई तू ही एक्वायरर चल, और मैं बन जाती हूँ एक्वायरी। करेक्ट सर? तो यहाँ भी एक होता है एक्वायरर, एक होती है एक्वायरी। उनकी जो रसीद कहानी है वो है यहाँ पे 103 में, और वो मैं आपके साथ साझा करूंगा। ठीक है सर, इसीलिए तो आपके साथ मुखातिब हुआ हूं मैं आपके साथ। ओके सर, determine the acquisition date. Sir, now we remember why acquisition date is very ahem, very important, because it is the date on which acquirer shall remeasure all identifiable assets and liabilities, comma, other than goodwill at fair value. Now, pause. कहानी में बदलाव आ रहा है। बदलाव क्या है? अक्वायरर और अक्वायरी दोनों में से कोई भी नहीं फॉलो करता कौन सा मॉडल? रिवैल्यूएशन मॉडल ऑब्लिक फेयर वैल्यू मॉडल। क्या करेंगे तब? स्टैंडर्ड कहते हैं कि acquirer should remeasure all identifiable assets and liabilities other than goodwill on the acquisition date at a fair value. 7 exceptions उसमें है, बताऊंगा कौन से। बट अहम बात यह है कि दो में से कोई भी फेयर वैल्यूएशन या द रिवैल्यूएशन मॉडल नहीं अख्तियार करते। क्या करेंगे आप? बताऊंगा आपको, बहुत रोचक बात है। ओके, एट फेयर वैल्यू एनी नॉन कंट्रोलिंग इंटरेस्ट, यस नॉन कंट्रोलिंग इंटरेस्ट। अब देखिए क्या शब्दों की मायाजाल है। हम कहते थे आज तक उसको माइनॉरिटी इंटरेस्ट, मगर करेक्ट वर्ड इन्होंने दिया सर नॉन कंट्रोलिंग इंटरेस्ट। खैर अंग्रेजी काफी आखिर उनकी मातृभाषा है, हमारी तो अडोप्टेड मातृभाषा है। तो इन्होंने कहा नॉन कंट्रोलिंग इंटरेस्ट, एंड वेरी गुड अल्फाज, एन इंटरेस्ट विच इज नॉट कंट्रोल्ड बाय यू, है ना? सिंपल टू अंडरस्टैंड। जो कंट्रोल करते हैं वो 60%, 70%, नॉन कंट्रोलिंग इज 40 और 30% एज अ केस में भी। जो नहीं करते इंटरेस्ट कंट्रोल, इसे नॉन कंट्रोलिंग। क्या बखूबी से दिखा है। एंड सर व्हेन यू चेंज द वर्डिंग तो समझ में आ जाती है। बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन, यस सर, कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ बिजनेस। इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रॉपर्टी, प्रॉपर्टी मैन फॉर इन्वेस्टमेंट, है ना? याद आ गया ना? बिल्कुल ऐसा ही यहाँ पे। ऑलराइट, ये तो कुछ मुझे लगा आप शायद बोर होंगे, नहीं होना चाहिए। रिकॉग्नाइजिंग एंड मेजरिंग गुडविल और बार्गेन परचेज। गुडविल की एक्विजिशन के बाद क्या ट्रीटमेंट है, गेन ऑन बार्गेन परचेस कहाँ क्रेडिट किया जाता है? प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस में, ओसीआई में या इक्विटी में? करेक्ट सर। गुडविल जो एक्विजिशन की है बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन, उसकी अकाउंटिंग ट्रीटमेंट क्या है? अमोर्टाइज किया जाता है या इम्पेयरमेंट किया जाता है? इम्पेयरमेंट किया जाता है तो कब करना है, कैसे करना है, कितनी बार करना है, ये सब चीजें बताऊंगा। मेजरमेंट पीरियड हमने कहा कि 1 साल की अवधि, 6 महीने की, कि 2 साल क्या है आगे, एंड सब्सिक्वेंट मेजरमेंट। फाइन सर। अब देखिए, हमने एक बात कही कि इट हैज टू बी बिजनेस। सो इफ इट इज नॉट अ बिजनेस, this standard will not be applicable. And for business, recently they've made changes. 14 July 2020, MC came out with modification, with the amendment of Ind AS, and that is, I think, third time they amended. So we have to decide, या business ले रहे कि नहीं। या example देता हूँ। I'll give the example, don't worry. रसिक भाई ने कहा एग्जाम्पल दीजिए। रसिक भाई, आपके लिए एग्जाम्पल दीजिए। एक होटल है, रेस्टोरेंट नहीं, होटल, and I'm buying that hotel along with all the staff, along with all the contracts, along with all the name, along with all the contracts with the customers, with the suppliers, with the facility provider, with everybody. Then I'm supposed to have acquired the business. I will apply 103. But when it comes to मैंने कहा तो मुझे देखो, आपको ना तो स्टाफ चाहिए, ना तो कुछ हाउस कीपिंग का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट चाहिए, ना तो F&B का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट चाहिए, कोई भी नहीं चाहिए। बुकिंग की सीता ट्रैवल भी मुझे पैकेज नहीं चाहिए, गीता भी नहीं चाहिए, सीता भी नहीं चाहिए, जो भी पैकेज है, आई एम नॉट कंसर्न। केवल आप मुझे स्केलेटन देके चले जाए। स्केलेटन कंप्राइज ऑफ व्हाट? होटल बिल्डिंग एंड ऑल एक्सेसरीज, फर्नीचर, फिक्सर्स, किचन इक्विपमेंट, एवरीथिंग। So second part is not a business, it's a group of assets. So in that case, second scenario, I will not apply business combination. I will simply apply the acquisition method. Sorry, acquisition method. I please simply apply the relevant standards like Ind AS 16, Ind AS 38, whether मैंने patent ली, whether मैंने trademark लिया, क्या लिया. So then I'll apply the relevant standard and not the business. Okay. So how the business are coming? The one or two business come together. A private limited company is acquired by the A Limited by buying the shares, by transferring consideration to the former owners. Then one entity I may transfer when A is acquiring another company B. A Limited is an acquirer. तो A Limited B के shareholders को या तो वो कैश देंगे, I mean चेक RTGS, या तो वो अपनी कंपनी के शेयर्स देंगे, या तो कोई डिफर्ड कंसिडरेशन देंगे, कुछ प्रॉमिस करेंगे, या तो कोई कंटिंजेंट कंसिडरेशन करेंगे। सर कंटिंजेंट लायबिलिटी से नहीं, कंटिंजेंट कंसिडरेशन नहीं सुना? यस सर, वो भी एक चीज है, बट बता देता हूँ क्या है वो कंटिंजेंट कंसिडरेशन। सर व्हेन यू अक्वायर द बिजनेस ना, तो क्या होता है कि भाई आप उनको कुछ कैरेट एंड स्टिक देते हैं। वो कैरेट एंड स्टिक क्या है कि देखिए, अभी आपका ईपीएस है 25 रुपीज पर शेयर। ओके, नाउ इफ यू इंक्रीज योर ईपीएस फ्रॉम 25 to 35, मैं आपको इतना दूंगा। वो बच्चों को देते हैं ना, लेसन कर तो तेरे को चॉकलेट दूंगा, ये होमवर्क कर तो तेरे को ये दूंगा, ये होमवर्क कर तो तुझे ये पिक्चर दिखाऊंगा। वैसे एक्वायरी को बोलते हैं। एक्वायरी, इफ यू इंक्रीज योर ईपीएस फ्रॉम 25 to 35, आई विल गिव यू 1 crore rupees extra in 1 year. And if you further increase to 45 in 2 years time, I'll give further 2 crore rupees. So इसे कहते हैं contingent consideration. But sir, आपको आज के दिन में मालूम है कि इसकी वैल्यू कितनी है, ये होने वाला है कि नहीं? As the word indicate contingent, which means the outcome is not within the control of the acquirer. तो आपको मालूम है ना सब, एक बहुत बड़ा एक लफ्ज है जिनके बिना IFRS अधूरा है। मैं कहूंगा IFRS रहेगा ही नहीं, हस्ती, अगर वो लफ्ज निकाल दिए तो। एंड वो लफ्ज का नाम है फेयर वैल्यू। सो हमारे फेयर वैल्यू एक्सपर्ट जो है वो कहते हैं कि कंटिंजेंट कंसिडरेशन की फेयर वैल्यू साहब इतनी होती है, तो हम इतना गिनते हैं। अच्छा सर, विजय जी ने जो मुझे कल एक बड़ा एक काम दिया था कि भाई सर जी, एक एग्जाम्पल तो हमारी जनता के लिए आप बनाइए सर, स्पेशली बिकॉज आपने जब विजय जी ने मुझे एक कॉन्सेप्ट बताया तो हमने उनको पूरा वो बना के दिया, ऑफ कोर्स 3 रिमाइंडर के बाद ना। तो जब आप इस प्रोग्राम के प्रणेता है तो आपका दायित्व तो बनता है कि कुछ उम्मीद से ज्यादा दिया जाए। तो हमने सर कंटिंजेंट कंसिडरेशन का प्रावधान भी एग्जाम्पल में किया है, आप देखेंगे सर। हाँ, ऑलराइट सर। फिर ऐसा होता है कि आई मे गिव cash to the former owners, I may give shares to the former owner, or I may transfer some none of few equipment to the company. तो ये भी सब अलग अलग हिस्से से होता है सब. So I transfer these net assets. अब देखिए वो अब बहुत रोचक बनते जा रहा है. अब कुछ गर्माहट आ रही है हमारी जिंदगी में, क्योंकि एक होता है एक्वायर, एक होती है एक्वायरी. एंड जब एक्वायर की बात होती है तो जाहिर सी बात है हमारी जिंदगी में भी कुछ मुस्कान आ जाती है ना. So entity that obtain the control of the acquiree, guidance given in Ind AS 110 shall be used. जी हाँ सर, मैं पता है 110 का सर्टिफिकेट लेके आए हम. हाँ ऐसे नहीं है. The business or businesses that acquiree obtains the control is known the acquiree. सर ये जानना बहुत जरूरी है, क्योंकि आप देखेंगे कि किसकी बैलेंस शीट से छेड़छाड़ होती है? एक्वायरी की. एंड वही डिसाइड करते हैं कि गुडविल क्या है, गार्गेन फ्रॉम बार्गेन परचेस क्या है. तो ये वेरी अहम होता है, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि हम ये डिसाइड करें कि कौन होता है एक्वायरर एंड कौन होती है एक्वायरी. हमने ये देखा कि ये थोड़ा अभी मैं स्किप करूंगा, क्योंकि हमने ये देख चुके हैं एक बार 110 में. एन इन्वेस्टर व्हेन इट इज एक्सपोज्ड टू और हैज राइट टू द variable return from its involvement with the investee and his ability. So ये हम उस पर गौर करते नहीं है, but control can be gained by virtue of an arraignment also, by virtue of a statute also. वो ऐसा है, स्टैच्यू के लिए ऐसा एग्जांपल है कि फॉरेन कंट्रीज में मान लीजिए मैंने 70% इन्वेस्टमेंट किए, बट लोकल लॉस कहते हैं कि राकेश रोशन या वाईएमडी 60% 70% भी करे, उसको कंट्रोल मत दीजिए. हाँ, कंट्रोल तो केवल लोकल आदमी ही करेगा. तो सर मेरी कुछ नहीं बनती है ना. और इसका विपरीत ऐसे हो गया कि वो आदमी जिसके पास केवल 30% हिस्सा है वो भी कंट्रोल कर पाएगा अंडर अ स्टैच्यू. करेक्ट सर, ऐसा है. चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं कंप्यूटर जी. आगे हाँ देखो, नमन करते हैं. वाह वाह. हाउ द कंट्रोल इज एक्वायर्ड, दैट मींस हाउ यू पे योर कंसिडरेशन. मैं थोड़ा, मेरी आदत है, वॉइस इज ओके बट योर चेक योर ऑडियो सेटिंग. ये सर मेरे ख्याल से कितने हमारे जनता, कितने सर, कितने लोग हैं सर हमारे? 115 लोग यहाँ पे है. इसमें से केवल एक ही हमारे मित्र ने कहा कि सर आपका ऑडियो चेक कीजिए. तो मेरी विनती है आप आपका सेटिंग थोड़ा चेक कीजिए. ओके. सो बाय ट्रांसफरिंग कैश और कैश इक्विवेलेंट और अदर एसेट्स, देन इनकरिंग लायबिलिटीज, दैट मींस आप कहते हैं कि भाई आपका वो डेट्स आप मत पे करना, मैं कर देता हूँ, या फिर टू अवेल दैट आई मे रेज सम कॉस्ट. अरे सर ये बात हुई, एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट का क्या है? हाँ, एक्विजिशन कॉस्ट का मसला क्या है सर, बताऊंगा आपको. शुड इट बी अ पार्ट ऑफ बिजनेस कॉम्बिनेशन कॉस्ट और नहीं? सर बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट है. बाय इश्यूइंग इक्विटी इंटरेस्ट, बाय प्रोवाइडिंग मोर देन, ये सबका समन्वय होता है या तो कोई भी एक, तो वो बनता है एक कंसिडरेशन से. तो दिस इज सर एक्सेप्ट रिवर्स एक्विजिशन. सर ये जो है ना, बाय एंटिटी इश्यूइंग द इक्विटी इंटरेस्ट, वो नॉर्मली इज कंसीडर्ड टू बी द एक्वायरर. जैसे मैंने कहा कि कंपनी ए प्राइवेट लिमिटेड इज एक्वायरिंग कंपनी बी प्राइवेट लिमिटेड, so in that case company A will issue shares to the former employees, former the shareholders of the company B. तो इससे कहते हैं कि एंटिटी इश्यूइंग द इक्विटी इंटरेस्ट. कंपनी ए क्या कहलाती है? इश्यूइंग इक्विटी इंटरेस्ट. तो क्या हर किसी में, हर केसेस में, in all the cases where an entity is issuing the equity interest, do you think that that is considered as an acquirer? Answer is not necessarily. तो क्या, देखिए शायद अगली स्लाइड पे. ओके कंप्यूटर जी, या ये तो रिवर्स एक्विजिशन है सर. ये रिवर्स एक्विजिशन में अगर मैं जाऊंगा और कुछ बात करूंगा ना, तो विजय जी सब के सब पार्टिसिपेंट्स चले जाएंगे, क्योंकि बहुत ही जटिल है ये. तो मुनासिब है, गनीमत यही रहेगा कि इसे स्किप करते हैं. बट नॉर्मली एक बात समझा जू, एक होती है प्राइवेट एंटिटी एंड दूसरी है लिस्टेड एंटिटी. ओके, सो this is a Kingfisher and this is a Deccan Airlines. So this is the Kingfisher is acquiring the Deccan Airlines, and but वास्तव में acquirer है Kingfisher. The acquirer is known as the accounting acquirer, whereas Kingfisher is known as the accounting acquirer. उनकी ख्वाहिश क्या है कि being a private limited company वो एक जुड़ना चाहते हैं लिस्टेड कंपनी से, ताकि उसको भी ए लिमिटेड को भी एक दर्जा मिले लिस्टेड एंटिटीज का, तो वो है उनकी कहानी. सो लीगली ए इज पेरेंट एंड बी इज सब्सिडरी. A is acquirer, legally is acquirer. हाँ, so B limited will acquire A, and then they say that कि हम ये करेंगे. But in this case, very important statement, I think मैंने कहीं पे लिखा है, एक मिनट, कि in case of the reverse acquisition, accounting is done from the perspective of the accounting acquirer and not the legal acquirer. यहाँ तक आज के लिए कि इतना काफी है, फिर बाद में अगर चाहे तो आप कर सकते. अब ये जो एग्जांपल दे रहा हूँ सर, वो इसके लिए है. इसके लिए है. ये मेरा पॉइंटर किधर गया? हाँ, पॉइंटर भाई, ये पॉइंटर भाई, हाँ आ गया. By issuing equity interest, that means the one who is issuing the shares is known as the acquirer. Not always, not always. Business combination affected by primarily by transferring cash or by exchanging equity interest. अब देखिए कि न्यूली फॉर्म एंटिटी ए और बी मिलके एक नई एंटिटी बनाते हैं, इसका नाम है सी लिमिटेड. अब सी लिमिटेड का काम है इश्यूइंग शेयर्स टू ए एंड बी लिमिटेड. So do you think that C Limited, which is issuing the equity interest, is known as an acquirer? No, because that is a shell company. That company is formed to facilitate acquisition. So the one of the combining entities will be considered as an acquirer. तो या तो A होगा या तो B, but C तो कभी नहीं, क्योंकि it is only, despite the fact it is only issuing the shares, despite the fact that it is issuing the equity interest. Sir, allow me to have a sip of water, please.
Yagnesh sir, one request has come that if you can go more in English, because there are some people from South India also.
Okay, I'll go more in English, sir. But let me tell you one thing, sir. Let me tell you one thing, that wherever I say in Hindi, it is not for any technical subject. But don't worry, I will try and speak in English as much I can, sir. As much I can, sir. 1 minute, sir. So if to my friends from Tamil Nadu, I'll say Ippadi Sukham, sir. And I am Nalla Sukham. Okay, you are Ippadi Sukham and I am Nalla Sukham, sir. Okay. Okay, sir. Sure, sir. I will take your mandate, and I appreciate. I'll try to speak in English as much as I can. Okay, thank you, sir. So my friend Mr. Venkat Subramani has taught me Ippadi Sukham, sir. Okay. Vodafone and Idea is not example. Vodafone and Idea ke liye I'll give one more example. Yes, you can say one more thing, but Vodafone and Idea, I have reserved this example for something else also. So when entity A and B is coming together and forming company C, which has the business of issuing these shares to A and B, not necessarily is C is a acquirer. So then any one of A or B will be known as an acquirer. So then you decide who is acquirer. It all depends on their equity investment, in their net worth, in other abilities and other factors. Suppose presume that both net worth is 600 crore each. Then we will call them acquirer. Then you have to look at the other aspects, other than the financial aspects. Who has the more dominating factors? Who has the more technological and technical abilities and all this? So then you decide that who has more technical abilities, that will be decided as an acquirer. The reason being, only acquirees' balance sheet financial statements are restated, right, sir? And now we'll see the acquisition date. This date is of a great, immense important, because the fair value on this date will be considered by the acquirer for the remeasuring of all identifiable assets and liabilities. So it's the date on which obtains the control, not necessarily the date of agreement, not necessarily the closer date of the agreement, not necessarily the date of transfer of consideration, and in principle, the date when an acquirer obtains the control. Okay, so it could be earlier or later than the closer date. So that's why I mean to say not necessarily the closer date. A and B commenced negotiation on 1st April 2010, in which A
Sir, your voice is not audible. I think there's some network issue with. Yagnesh sir, are you there?
कुछ इश्यू हुआ है उनके नेटवर्क के साथ.
हाँ वही एक मिनट खाली.
He will be joining again. He will be joining again.
Yeah. Yes. Kindly bear with us. He's joining. There's a technical issue at his end. He's joining in a minute. Kindly bear with us. गिरीश भाई इनको जरा होस्ट तो बनाओ. किधर दिख रहा है क्या? अनम्यूट करो सर को. हाँ?
अनम्यूट करता हूँ.
Yes sir, you can unmute now.
Yes. Can you hear me now, sir? Can
Yes.
you see the slide?
Yes.
Guys, I'm sorry about this technical snacks, but I was not responsible for that. But please bear with me. I'll extend another 10 minutes. Not to worry about it. So the question goes to you now, sir. What is the acquisition date in this case? Is it 15 June or 1st April? Is it 15 June or 1st April? What is the date of acquisition from your perspective here, sir? Guys, we can see, can you see this slide before you, sir? Please tell me which is the acquisition date, sir. 15 June, bilkul sahi jawab. That's the date on which it is acquiring the control. So that's and not the date on which it is otherwise defined in the agreement. Now, what on the acquisition date, what an acquirer does? He identifies assets acquired separately from goodwill, liabilities assumed, and NCI, that is non-controlling interest. So, provided they meet the definition laid down in the framework and exchange in the business combination, the two conditions need to be complied with, that they meet the definition given in the framework for preparation and presentation of the financial statement. So it's quite possible that the entity which is getting acquired may not necessarily be following the Ind AS. So in that case, what you should do, you should apply the definition and the recognition criteria for the particular element of the financial statements, and then you see whether this is applicable or not, sir. Sir, actually, विजय जी एक बात हम कर सकते थे कि 10 मिनट्स का जो विराम था वो मेरे लिए कैंसिल नहीं होगा सर, मेरे लिए विराम नहीं होगा, but if participants wants to have the 10 minutes break, I am willing to give 10 minutes break. If they don't want to have any break because of this technical snag, I'm willing to continue. So you take the poll and you tell me, Vijay ji,
सर
should we?
आई थिंक वो तो मेरे ख्याल से हो गया होगा. वी कैन कंटिन्यू.
I can continue. तो मुझे कोई एतराज नहीं. I can continue with this. Okay, fine. So, provided they meet the definition given in the framework, an exchange and business combination transaction and not a separate transaction. So, if it is a separate transaction, that will not form part of the business combination accounting. And what is not separate and what is separate, that we will see in next slide. Now, last two lines are very important. Last one line rather, that provided irrespective of whether they have been previously been recognized in the acquiree's financial statement. That means acquiree ने अपने books में नहीं भी लिया होगा, even if acquiree has not considered this element in the books of account, still acquirer has to take cognizance of that. So technically acquirer does four things: de-recognize, recognize, remeasure, and reclassify all the items appearing in the financial statements of the acquiree, and sometime item which has not been appearing in the acquiree's books of accounts. So the example which I have coined will cover all the aspects. And we have seen, provided they are exchanged in business combination transaction and not a separate transaction. That means if it is a separate transaction, then it is not forming part of the business combination. Here is a criteria for that. Who is the beneficiary? We have to see, in order to decide whether it is a separate transaction or not, whether it's to be included in the business consideration or not, we need to ask ourselves a question: who is the beneficiary of this transaction? If it is meant primarily for the benefit of the acquirer or the combined equity, then it is a separate transaction, not forming part of the business combination and included in the cost of the and not included in the cost of acquisition. For example, and let me complete this slide and I'll give the example. And if it is primarily for the benefit of the acquiree or the former owners, then it is not a separate transaction. If it is not a separate transaction, then it is a blended transaction. If it is a blended transaction, then whatever money you spend for this is included in the cost of consideration of business combination. So it's very important for you to understand whether it is a separate contract or not. And for that, the key question is, it is meant for whose benefit? It is meant for the benefit of the acquirer or acquiree. If it is meant for the benefit of the acquirer, then it is not to be included in the parts of the business combination. If it is meant for the benefit of the acquiree, then it is to be added as a part of the business combination. Now, for example, company A is acquiring company B, and company A gives some consideration to the CEO of the company B. Why? To run the machine, to run the business after acquisition. So if so running business after acquisition will help more help the acquirer rather than helping the acquiree. So if it is helping the acquirer, it will be a separate transaction. It will not form part of the business combination, and the money paid will not be considered as a consideration paid for acquisition of business. Zahir si baat hai, very important thing, very evident, that the money given to the CEO of the company to run the business post acquisition is not meant for the business, but it is meant to run the business, and hence it will not be added as a part of the cost of consideration. Now, if it is given to the acquiree or the former owner, then it will be considered as a part of the, it is not a separate transaction, it is a blended transaction, it will be included in the cost of acquisition. Now, intangible assets other than goodwill, recognized on the basis if they meet the certain criteria, whether the legal or separable criteria which is given in the framework, then it will be included in the consideration of the net assets of the SSC, the acquiree. Now, regardless of subsequent use by the acquirer and regardless of recognition by the acquiree, so regardless of the subsequent use, that means even after acquisition, you don't want to use it, that intangible assets, but still you have to, at least on the date of acquisition, take consideration, cognizance of this intangible assets and take into account. Example is a Vodafone. Now, Vodafone, after it has been acquired, they have acquired the Hutchison. they had never used the whether it is a formerly known as these, whether it was orange or mango or whatever make it, they have not mentioned this even for one day. That means that brand was not used by the Vodafone even for a single day. But still, if you read the documents of the Vodafone acquisition, you will see that they have given the fair valuation and they valued the intangible assets called the brand name of the acquisition. And next day, they didn't impair, but they reduced the useful life of that particular asset just for one day, and then they de-recognize the thing. And regardless of the recognition by the acquiree, so it's quite possible that some of the intangible assets may not have been recognized by the acquiree, but still you in the sense acquirer will have to take this into account. Like for example, this now contractual and separately identifiable intangible assets, trademark, trade names, royalty agreements, these are never recognized in the books of the acquiree, but still on the date of acquisition, acquirer has to recognize these intangible assets in his books of accounts, as I mentioned, regardless of recognition by the acquiree. And these are the customarily separately identified. So these have to be recognized by the acquirer on the date of acquisition at fair value. All right. Now, this is what he does on the date of the acquisition recognition. It also recognizes the contingent liability. Yes, sir, there's an exception. Normally, all identifiable assets and liabilities are to be measured at fair value, except seven things. Except seven things. As far as recognition is concerned, contingent liability. Mind you well, contingent liability is also to be recognized. Conditions apply. I'll explain you in brief here in the next two slides. Income tax, Ind AS 12, employee benefits, Ind AS 19, indemnification of assets, I'll explain you. Reacquired asset, again I'll explain you. Share-based payment, Ind AS 102, non-current asset held for sale, Ind AS 105. So, assets covered or the items covered by Ind AS 12, Ind AS 19, Ind AS 102 and Ind AS 105 are measured as per that applicable standards and not at the fair value on the date of acquisition. Now, contingent liability, we'll see. The definition of contingent liability is a possible obligation that may arise and a present obligation. Let's talk about the present obligation that arises from past event but is not recognized. Either it is not probable or it is not probable that you have to pay, or you are unable to measure the amount which needs to be paid. So in these two cases, an entity has not rightly recognized, acquiree has not rightly recognized the contingent liability. But there is a tweak by Ind AS 103. It says that contrary to Ind AS 37, the acquirer recognized the contingent liability assumed in the business combination on the acquisition date, even if they can ascertain the amount, even if it is not probable that the outflow of resource will be required to be settled. But even if they can measure the liability to be paid at future, any one of these criteria is applied. Even even if it is not probable, but if the amount can be measured, then it is to be recognized as a liability. Okay, then income tax we'll see as per that. Employee benefit as per this. Now, what is the indemnification asset? Sometimes it happens that, look, I am acquiring your company, but the company may have to pay some liability, may have to pay some legal suits, may have to pay some old service tax liability, or some GST liability, or some income tax liability. So then acquirer tells, okay, look, you pay me this money if I have to pay this. If I have to pay 2 crore rupees to the GST, if I have to pay 2 crore rupees to the service tax, if I have to pay 1 crore rupees to the income tax, you compensate me 5 crore rupees. So this is known as a indemnification assets. So shall recognize the indemnification asset at the same time that you recognize the item to be measured and to be indemnified. So this is what they say that just a minute. Okay, so this is what they say that on the basis subject to the valuation allowance for the uncollectible. That is a very deep thing. So in a nutshell, in this case, my indemnification asset will be 5 crores because that's the amount I expect to be indemnified by the acquiree. Then we will see that reacquired rights. That acquiree could be my franchisee holder. I have given the franchise right for 10 years, 6 years have elapsed, and balance 4 years are remaining. So the value of the reacquired right will not be on the basis of the fair value on the date of acquisition, but based on the remaining contractual terms. So these are the exceptions to the general rule. The general rule being on the date of acquisition, acquirer shall reacquire all identifiable assets and liabilities at fair value on the measurement date. Now, if the acquirer is a lessee, now 116 will be applicable. Ind AS 116 will be applicable. Then, in that case, you determine whether the lessee is liable for Ind AS 116, and then, if that is the case, right of use asset is to be recognized or not. So that is again one further consideration for the acquirer to measure the ROU asset if the acquiree is a lessee. Okay, fine. Now, how the admin sir, please admit these two gentlemen. Okay, fine. May admit kar leta. Okay, identifying the you need to find out the acquisition date consideration is to be measured at the fair value. So how the fair value, how the consideration is measured? Either you may have transferred some assets or some liabilities incurred or the equity interest. So, and this is all sigma known as a consideration paid by the acquirer to acquiree to acquire the business. And let us see. Contingent consideration. Mango Limited acquired the Michi Limited. The consideration is paid as, and the down payment 20 crore rupees, a further payment of 5 crore if the market value increased by the end of year 1, a further 5 crore rupees if it increased by 30% at the end of year 2. So what is the consideration here? Are you able to determine the value of the consideration to be paid in future, which is dependent on certain item? Is known as a contingent consideration? No, you don't know exactly how much you need to pay. So what you've done, down payment is 20 crore, but I have agreed for some contingent consideration, the consideration which is dependent on some future uncertain future events which is not within the control of the acquirer. The fair value experts have given the valuation of 1 crore rupees for this, and this is now 21 crore rupees. So and this is known as the contingent consideration. It is considered as a consideration paid. Okay. Now, it is quite possible that you may transfer some assets to the acquiring company, like you may transfer your equipment to the company. Now, if the transfer assets remain within the combined entity after combination, don't do any accounting treatment because it is given from left hand to right hand. But however, if that equipment is given to the former owners of the acquiree, then it is to be recognized. Any profit or gain on that is to be recognized by the acquirer. All right. So this is now. I was mentioning to you what happens to the acquisition cost. Is it added to the acquisition amount consideration paid or not? If not added, what is the treatment? So let's see. If the fees paid to the finders or the values of the consultant, then they are to be expensed out, do not form part of the cost of acquisition. Cost of maintaining acquisition department, again to be expensed out, do not form part of the consideration. Legal and accounting professional fees paid, again to be expensed out, do not form part of the consideration or the acquisition. Cost of raising debts is to be treated in accordance with Ind AS 109. So if I have raised debts, if I raise money by way of a debt to pay the consideration, which is there's a clear nexus and the connection nexus between the amount borrowed and amount to be paid for considerations. Though it is directly connected, the expenses incurred for raising the debts do not form part of the cost of acquisition, but they are treated in accordance with 109. Now, what 109 says, that any debt which is incurred to raise funds shall not be expensed out, but shall be reduced from the debt. Any amount spent for raising of the equity shall not be expensed out, but shall be reduced from the equity. So this is the accounting treatment of the acquisition related cost. In a nutshell, they do not form part of the cost of consideration. Fine. Now, What happens on the date of acquisition, sir? What happens on the date of acquisition? Acquiree essentially does following and make a fresh balance sheet of the acquiree on the acquisition date. I have prepared one for you. We'll just quickly go through this. Then there is something called acquire, recognize, de-recognize, remeasured if required, and reclassified. Thus, the balance sheet prepared afresh by the acquirer or the acquiree on the date of would be different from the one prepared by the acquiree in his normal course of business. Going forward, the newly structured numbers will be considered for future consideration, for future consolidation. If A has acquired B Private Limited, that being a company, it will continue to run even after the acquisition. But whatever accounting is done by the acquirer on the date of acquisition will not be taken into consideration by the acquiree. Acquiree will stick to its own balance sheets, its own numbers. It will file its own MCA returns. It will prepare its own balance sheet as per its own accounts. वो खुद के account में जो है, whatever is there appearing in his books of account, they will follow only those numbers. They will not take cognizance of the balance sheet which is recast by the acquirer on the date of acquisition. Because acquirer has to do is because it's required by the purchase acquisition method and in order to measure the goodwill and or gain from bargain purchase. Very important. So the acquirer and acquiree has to keep in mind forever as to what are the changes made by the acquirer on the date of acquisition in the numbers of the various elements of financial statements on the date of acquisition for the limited purpose of calculating goodwill and going forward for consolidation. Now, should the stamp duty on the acquisition of land pursuant to business combination be capitalized as the cost of assets, or should it be treated as an acquisition cost and accordingly expensed out, or what? The answer for this is no. Answer for this is no. It's to be expensed out. And the answer for this is there in, if I am not mistaken, paragraph 18 of question number 18 in the educational material of ICI. ICI has issued educational material on Ind AS 103 and many other standards. Please go through this ICI educational material and you will find the answer to this question, that it is not to be capitalized but to be expensed out in the year in which the acquisition is completed. And in other words, it is not to be capitalized. There's a lot of debate for this. I don't go in for that, but I give the surag, I'll give the source where I have taken this question from, because I find it is a must. It's an eye opener. And the idea of one more idea of drawing you to educational material, referring the educational material issued by ICI is just to make sure that this is one this is one reason by virtue of which you feel inclined to read educational material issued by ICI. Do read this. It's issue number 18. All right. Now, again, one more conceptual question. I want answer for this. Vijayji, I'm just opening the floor. I'm opening the floor, and I want answer from the people here that someone has given a correct answer. Mr. D. Gururaj has given a correct answer. It's to be expensed out about that thing. But as far as parent and subsidiary is concerned, now this question is a very good conceptual question. Jiski roots. The roots of this answer lies in Ind AS 16. In Ind AS 16. I want answer. Vijayji, please, आप भी प्रोत्साहित कीजिए. Please also encourage participants to answer this question. Vijayji.
Sir, they are answering on chat already.
Yes. Achha. Someone say no. Okay. Okay. So I'm getting the mixed answer, the mixed response. My question is very clear. So when the parent and subsidiary follow the different accounting, different method of depreciation for depreciating the property, plant, equipment, should depreciation method is needs to be changed? Okay. Now, friends, here comes a tip as to how to read the Ind AS. For the purpose of consolidation, is parent required to make any adjustment in the different method adjustment for different method of depreciation? Answer is no. Answer is no, because paragraph 61 of Ind AS 16 says that the method of depreciation is not an accounting policy anymore. It is an estimate. Paragraph 61 of Ind AS 16 says that method of depreciation is an estimate, and a change in estimate can be followed differently by parent and subsidiaries, and still while consolidating there need not be any requirement for the adjustment on account of the different method of depreciation followed by parent and subsidiaries. Friends, just remember, paragraph 61 of Ind AS 16 says that it is not an accounting policy anymore. It is not an accounting policy anymore. Very good answer. C.A. Sanjay Picharia. C.A. Sanjay Picharia, you had given a correct answer, the logical answer. You simply didn't say no, but you say that this is not a change in a policy. It is a change in an estimate, and hence different entities, group entities can follow the different estimates. Anyway, this is just wanted to see that kuch isse bahar ke. Now let us see, we are gradually coming to the interesting part of calculation, the number crunching. The number crunching is now coming, gradually stepping into it. We'll define block A as a consideration and block B as the net assets of the acquiree. Now, block A is a consideration. It is measured at fair value always. So if I am transferring some 4,000 shares of my company, which has a face value of 10 rupees, so I will not measure my consideration as 40,000, but I'll consider my consideration at 4,000 shares multiplied by 4,000 shares multiplied by the market value of the shares. That means I have measured at the fair value. So that is one. B, non-controlling interest. Now, non-controlling interest can be measured two ways, either proportionate method or fair value. We have got number of examples here. And third, fair value of previously held equity interest in the acquiree at acquisition date. AD stands for acquisition dates. Now, I'll give you a small example. Here, and for this, I know your love for the Excel. I know you're low for the Excel, sir. केवल विजय जी केवल 1 मिनट का टाइम दीजिए, and I'll go back to the Excel file. Okay, sir, I'll explain this to you with the number so that you get understand easily. Now let me new share. Can you see, sir, Excel file, sir, Vijayji, on your screen?
No, sir.
You can't see?
That slide is showing.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's clear.
Now, okay. So the fair value of previously held equity interest. There is an example here, but I want to still explain you in a very easily comprehensible manner. The company is acquired in 2020. Okay, I acquired 30% share of the company, but in 2019 I have already acquired 30%. I have already acquired 30% for 10,000, and this I acquired 30,000. I have paid 15,000 for this 30%. So this I acquired in 2019, and it's very logical that I gain a control not just by acquiring this 30%, but I gain control because I had already acquired 30% in previous year. So when I take my consideration, it is the consideration which I paid now plus fair value of this 30%, which is again 15,000. It is obvious. So my consideration will now be 30,000, and it won't be 25,000. You getting my point, sir? So my consideration will be 30,000 and not 25, because I have to assign the fair value of my previously held equity interest, and this 5,000 will again go to my profit and loss account. So this is what they say. This is what they say by saying this, that fair value of previously held equity interest is nothing but the this 15,000. Identifiable assets, both tangible and intangible, other than goodwill, minus identifiable liabilities. So these are known as the net assets. So sigma A minus B is equal to, if A exceeds B, if this is more than this, then it results into goodwill. If B exceeds A, that means this is A is less than B, then it results from the gain from bargain purchase, which is recognized in the equity. Okay, at international level, as per IFRS 3, the gain from bargain purchase is recognized in the P&L account. Okay, sir, fine. Now let us see computer G. Okay, now non-controlling interest can be measured two ways, either proportionate method or measured at the fair value. If it is measured at the proportionate method, then the goodwill will always be lower as compared to the when they are measured at the fair value. If the NCI is measured at the proportionate method, the impairment is borne only by the owner, whereas if the NCI is measured at fair value, the impairment loss is borne both by owners and the NCI. Fine. Now here is an example, sir, which will make your understanding clear. ABC acquired 7,50,000 share out of 10 lakh equity share in LMN at a price of ₹5 per share. What is my investment? 75%. What is my NCI? 25%. LMN's assets less liability, that means the net asset was 4 million, that means 40 lakhs. So this will remain same, 40 lakhs and 40 lakhs, whether I follow the fair value method or whether I follow the proportionate method, because that remains same. And I have paid how much? I paid ₹5 for 7,50,000 shares. So my block A1 is ₹5 multiplied by 7,50,000. I'm getting 7,50,000. This will remain same regardless of the method. What is changed when there is a method change in the basis? What is changed is this figure, NCI, when it is measured at fair value as compared to when it is measured at the proportionate method. Now let us see, sir. Let us see the proportionate method. I paid 37,50,000, which I arrived at 5 multiplied by 7,50,000. I got this figure. My NCI is 25%. So 4 millions, 40 lakhs, 25% is 10 lakhs, which I'm adding to consideration as per the formula. So which formula? Let us go which formula. This is the formula, sir. Okay, this is the formula. Consideration measured at fair value, NCI and previously held equity interest. Okay, fine. So we are on the right track. The total is 4750 here, minus 40 lakhs. My goodwill is 7,50,000 rupees. When I measured the NCI at the proportionate method. Now let us measure the NCI at the fair value. Now, sir, I paid ₹5 to buy this share. It says that an estimated price paid for included in the premium per share is 0.50. Is 0.50, sir, right? Now this 0.50 is nothing but premium I paid. That means an outsider party who is not willing to gain the control would have paid 4.5%. That means the party which is not going to control, which is not interested in controlling, which is known as the NCI, would have paid 4.50 and not ₹5. Why? Because they are not interested in control, and 0.50 is a control premium. So then 2,50,000 people would buy the share. They'll pay at 5 minus 0.50. They'll pay at 5 minus 0.50. Yes, someone has said very correctly. CA Sanjay ji and CA Rasik bhai, aap to evergreen hai yaar. Rasik aapni hai. So 2,50,000 times 4.5 will give you the number of 11.25. आप गिन लीजिए 4.5 multiplied by 2,50,000, you get 11.25. So 48.75 is my block A, which is consideration plus NCI measured at fair value. So minus 40 net asset, I get a figure of goodwill of 48.75. Are you clear, my friends? So it endorses my sentence once again that when the goodwill is measured at proportionate method, FV is measured at the proportionate method, goodwill will be lower as compared to B. What is B? When goodwill is measured at fair value. So in other words, when NCI is measured at the fair value, when NCI is measured at fair value, goodwill is higher as compared to when NCI is measured at and proportionate method. This is 8.75, this is 7.450. In future, whenever there is a impairment of goodwill, in this case it will be borne in the ratio of 75-25. In this case, entire goodwill impairment will be borne only by the owner. Correct, sir. Now let us take one more example. A and B enters into contract to govern. A is a larger entity, B is a smaller entity. So A is the acquirer, B is the acquiree. They enter into contract, so there is no consideration paid. So block A will be, A1 will be 0. Consideration will be 0. In both the cases, consideration is 0. Fine. Fair value of the B is 100. Fair value of B is 100. And net assets is 75. All right. So let's know proportionate method. I have not invested single penny. What is going to be my NCI, sir? How much is going to buy my NCI? My investment is 0, sir. My investment is 0. What is my NCI? Absolutely correct. Bilkul sahi jawab. Bilkul sahi jawab. NCI is 100%. So 100% of net asset is 75. 100% of net asset is 75. Obvious, sir. So my A1 consideration is 0. A2 is NCI 75. A3 previously held equity and this is 0. So my assets, the total consideration A1 block A is 75 and net asset is 75. So my goodwill is 0. Now I'm measuring fair value of B. I'm measuring NCI at fair value. So NCI's fair value is 100. Net asset is 75. My goodwill is 25. So when NCI is measured at fair value, goodwill is always higher as compared to proportionate method. Are you clear, friends? Yes or no? Hello? This is very, very important conceptual statement, sir. If you're clear, तो ही मैं आगे बढ़ूंगा. Then only I'll go ahead. Otherwise, no. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now, previously held equity interest is to be measured at the fair value on the acquisition date, and that is, so what happens, sir? An associate may become subsidiary, a joint control may become subsidiary. So this is what they should do. And there is one example also, sir. We'll look at this example. It's here only. All right. Now, gain from bargain purchase arises when the consideration NCI and acquisition fair value exceeds the net asset of the acquiree. The standards say that when you find that there's a gain from bargain purchase, you revisit everything and then recognize in the profit and loss account. Now, measurement period is a period of 1 year's time from the date of acquisition. So whatever you find, whatever there are changes in the valuation, you do it retrospectively. That's fine. Okay, and after that. And then during the measurement period, what you do, whatever numbers are there, you adjust it. If possible, I'll give an example also. But what happens, sir, when you acquire a big company, you don't get all the numbers immediately on the date of closure. You don't get everything on the date when the control is acquired. But you wait for some time. You wait for the court judgment. You wait for the valuation. So the standard has given a year's time. Okay, maximum a year's time. Either you get the information or a year's time. Say, for example, on 16th August, the company is acquired and you didn't get the valuation report. So maximum period is 15th August 21. But you got this information on 15th July 21. So the standard says that it is the shorter of the date when you receive the data or the 1 year. The date when you receive the data or 1 year. So I got the data on 15th July. So it is 11 months. or otherwise it could be maximum 1 year. So then whatever you've done adjustment you're looking for, you make it retrospectively, that is there. And after the acquisition date, if you receive the information, then you apply the Ind AS 8. This is what the standard says. And this is about the all subsequent measurement. I am not going to go much into here. Six, this is very important. Is the business combination covered by one of the voluntary exemption of Ind AS 101? Yes, it is covered, so much so that for business combination, its entire appendix B, appendix C is given for that, and that is for the business combination accounting. Either an entity can apply fully or they can apply it partially. Okay, now I know your love for Excel. So what I'll do, sir, about the business combination exemption, which is given in appendix C to Ind AS 101. For example, an entity has made an acquisition in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2018. What do you mean by exemption? Once you claim the exemption, whatever acquisition done by you, whatever 5 acquisition done by you, you no need to apply it retrospectively. No need to apply it retrospectively. That means you apply prospectively. That means even if you apply the pooling of interest method, don't worry. Even if you have the legal acquirer, even if you the accounting acquirer, forget jo bhi kuch balance numbers are there in your consolidated financial statement, stick to that. Don't make any changes at all. So it's the big relief. This is given in appendix C to Ind AS 101. Okay, now, but you say here, but there is one caveat. You claim exemption for this. Yes, you claim exemption for this. You don't claim exemption for this. So you don't claim exemption for this. That means what, sir? You will apply this retrospectively. You will apply it retrospectively. And you're not claiming exemption for this. Since you're not claiming exemption for the acquisition made in 2012, you cannot claim exemption for the subsequent acquisition. That means here also you cannot claim any exemption. This is the crux of the matter. Now, Matt, let me see what is there in chart masala. What is there in chart masala? Fine, sir. So either you don't claim even you claim exemption for the possibilities are this: either you claim exemption, correct, for all of them, no question asked. But if you're not claim the exemption for this, that means you cannot claim this exemption for the subsequent acquisition made by the entity. This is what the exemption is all about. Correct, sir? So can you see the PPT on this on the screen, sir? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Disclosures, I'm going to skip. And now, sir, wow, over to illustrations. Correct, sir. Now, this is what I wanted to tell you, how you should read the balance sheet, consolidated and the separate financial statement. Now, let us see. This is the standalone financial statement of a company at 31st March 2019. Can you see, friends? This is the standalone financial statement. In this, the financial investment in subsidiary and subsidiary companies and joint ventures. For joint ventures under Ind AS, now you apply equity method. You apply equity method. That is shown on the asset side of the balance sheet under non-current assets and under the financial assets as a separate line item. Correct? So under financial, so in other words, it is considered as a financial asset. In other words, it is considered as a financial asset. Please increase the, sir, abhi aur kitna karu said dada, this is the limit. Okay, still I'm trying to increase it. Fine, it's 100%, sir. Okay, so under this, in a standalone financial statement, investment in subsidiary and investment using accounting method, equity accounting are shown as a financial assets. We all know, sir, in consolidated financial statements, investment in subsidiary will be knocked out. It will be removed from the books of accounts in a consolidated financial statements. Sir, we all know, sir, it's not a rocket science. Fine. But What you don't know is perhaps this. And what is this? Very interesting. Very interesting. In this, sir, in a consolidated financial statement of the same company, investment in subsidiary will not appear in the balance sheet, which is a conceptual understanding, and I'm sure you all of us know it. Okay, but what happens to the investments in associates and JVs, which is accounted for using equity method? How they are being presented as what? They are presented as not as financial assets. Can you see they are presented outside the financial assets? They are shown outside the financial assets as a separate line item on the non-current asset. Investments accounted for using the equity method. You want the endorsement for this? Write down. I will write down for you, sir. I'll write down for you. Now, Sir G. Now, I am referring to the paragraph of Division 2, Schedule 3 to the Companies Act. Now, this paragraph is 8.4.8.2. 8.4.1.2, 1.12. So this is a paragraph, and again, if you want a paragraph Ind AS 1, it is paragraph 41. 84. So it is 8482. Sorry, sir, it is 8482. Is a paragraph. This one, sir, 8.4.8.2. This is a paragraph number of this Division 2, and as far as this is concerned, in this 1 paragraph 54. Now, what is now? This is the ये तो statement बनाया किया मैंने. But what is the conceptual understanding behind it? What is the basis? What is the basis for conclusion? Okay, the thing which is being shown is the financial asset in a separate financial statement. The same amount is being shown, same investment, same company, same year is being shown as not a financial assets in console. Because then you should go to the roots of the financial assets. Because then this is in financial separate financial statement, it is a that company is an outsider, but in a group it is not an outsider anymore. So it is not a right to receive cash or any other financial assets from the outside parties. So this is, friend, how you should read the thing. Now this is a self-assessment test. Self-assessment test. But usse pehle, sir, usse pehle, I will like to go to the example which I've coined sirf aur sirf aapke liye. And let us be very, very careful. It's about we got officially 43 minutes. Be careful. Pay attention. Acquirer is A Private Limited. Acquirer E is B Private Limited. Date of acquisition is 1st January 20. Number of shares acquired by B in B Private Limited is 8,000. 8,000 shares have been acquired, which is 80% based on the information given below. The market value of share of A Private Limited is 5,000. Implicit rate of borrowing is 10%. Non-controlling interest in B is 20%. We know, sir, if I acquire 80, NCI is 20%. Fine. All right. So we are clear on the facts. Now, B Private Limited has given the balance sheet like this. Property, plant, equipment, 25,000. These are the figures as given by them as per their book value, carrying value. You can see all these numbers. Correct. I put a gray mark here. You understand why. So my net assets are 17,000. My net asset is 17,000, sir. Correct, sir? Okay. How do you get the 58? 58. Okay, net asset is very clear, sir. What is my net asset, sir? Why you're gumifying? My net asset is this one, sir. Right, sir? So are you clear about the net asset of the entity, sir? Please, yes or no? Hello? Janta Dhanardan? Yes, sir. You're clear about the net asset as per the books. You are clear about the net asset as per book. Now, what acquirer has to do? Acquirer has to do the remeasurement. Hey, sir, I forgot to draw your attention to this line. None of the acquirer or acquiree follow the revaluation model. Yes, sir. even if you don't follow, even if none of them follows the acquisition or the revaluation model or the fair value model, nonetheless, still they have to do this exercise on the acquisition day, not day, entity A Private Limited. So it assigned the fair value of this property, plant, equipment. There is increase in the carrying value as compared to the tax base, so it will result into deferred tax liability. Don't forget that. I've done this for you as well. Investment properties, it has gone up. Now, investment property normally is to be measured at cost, but there is exemption here that on the date of acquisition, even if India follows the cost model, you have to still measure investment properties at fair value on the AD. AD stands for acquisition date. So are you clear now? These are the changes. This liability inventories was not required to be inventory as per the Ind AS, so they have de-recognized. This is the case of remeasurement. This is the case of remeasurement. This is, sorry, derecognition. I beg your pardon. This is the case of derecognition. Nikal diya, removed. This is the case of remeasurement. So ultimately here, my increase is 11,000, and at 20%, my increase is 11,000, and at 20%, my DTL is 2,200. When the carrying value of an asset is more than the tax base, it results into deferred tax liability. Fine, sir. We all know, sir. Don't worry. All right, then I increased my valuation of the fair liabilities by this thing. I removed some provision because they were not required to be provision under the Ind AS. Fine. Now for intangible assets, there is some note 1. Let us see what is note 1. Let us go to note 1. Note 1, kya likha hai? What is there? As per the B's is 8,000. Yes, as per my book, it is 8,000. Fine, sir. As per my book, it is 8,000. B's Private Limited. De-recognized because certain intangible assets were not eligible to be intangible assets as per the Ind AS. New intangible assets recognized. Certain intangible assets which were not recognized by the acquiree are now recognized by the acquirer on the acquisition date. So this is the de-recognition, this is the recognitions, and increase in the remeasurement. So out of this, when you remove 2,000, they remain 6,000. But 6,000, when I remeasure, there is an increase of 1,500. So in all, I have added 4. I've added 4, and I reduce 2, and this is the fair value changes. So these are 3 cases. This is a case of de-recognition, this is the case of recognition, and this is a case of remeasurement of the intangible assets in the acquiree. So net increases 3,500. Yes, sir, we know, sir. Net increases. So this is 5,500 minus 2, so 3,500. Oh, that's how this 3,500 here. Okay, I got it, sir. I got it, sir. We got it, sir. We got it. So like this, now my, okay. In the same manner, there is increase in liability also. Like this, my this has gone up to 2,000. It's been de-recognized. Fine. So ultimately, there's a net change of 4,000. But these changes are not recognized by the income tax authorities. These changes are not recognized by the income tax authorities. So technically, I call it my tax base is not changed. What is changed is my carrying value. So when the carrying value of an asset is more than the tax base, it results into a liability, and reverse is the case for the liability. When the carrying value of liability is more than the tax base, it results into, deferred tax assets. Yes, sir. It results into deferred tax asset. Let me do this calculation, sir. Okay. 2,200 is a plus and of the DTL, and this is my 800 is my DTA. So net increase is 1,400. So 1,400 when I add to 1,000 already existing deferred tax liability, my deferred tax liability becomes 2,400. Okay, sir. So what is my net asset? My net asset is 22,600. My net asset is 22,600. How do you derive it, sir? 69,000 minus 46,400. This is my net asset. Okay. Now let us go for that, sir. What all I have paid, sir? For every 2 shares of B Limited, 1 share of A. So there were 8,000 shares. So 8,000 divided by 2 is 4,000 shares. Yes, sir, we know it. And the price of this share in market is 5,000. That is the fair value measured, any consideration measured at fair value. जी हाँ दोस्तों. So this is 4,000 times 5,000 divided by 1,000 is so much. Now this party A has given a lollipop that look, if you give this, if you, I am paying you 10,000 crores, but after 2 years. I am paying you 10,000 crores after 3 years. Sorry, after 3 years. Maaf kijiye, 3 years. So I have to measure the fair value. So this I found the PV factor divided by multiply by 3 power to 3. So this is my PV times 10,000. So present value of the deferred consideration. Mind you well, not a contingent consideration, is the deferred consideration. NCI is proportionate method. So what is the proportionate method, sir? How did I arrive at this NCI, sir? Can anyone tell me how I arrived at NCI? आप कोई बताएंगे? Can anyone tell me how did I arrive at the NCI, which is 20%? How I arrived this 20%, sir? How did I arrive this figure? Not fair value, dear. Not fair value. Not fair value. It is the proportionate method, sir. It is the proportionate method. What are the net assets of the acquiree? What are the net assets of the acquiree, sir? What are the net assets of the acquiree? 22,600. 22,600 multiplied by this is your net SV fair is proportionate method. Very good, very good. Proportionate method. CS Sanjay Pichadia. Sanjay ji के लिए तालियां हो जाए sir. Sanjay ji आपके लिए big clap for you. Yes, yes. Achha, those who are not being able to answer, don't worry, because in this scenario, in this web classes, black classes, if you are not able to answer quickly, don't forget. Don't forget. When you sit alone, you will do that. And okay, so fair value consideration measured at fair value, then the deferred consideration to be measured at the fair value discounted to the present value. NCI proportionate, net assets multiplied by 20. Sir, we know it, sir. Fair value of the contingent consideration. Okay. Sir, there is one more note, and this note is this. Contingent liability, because the amount could not be measured reliably, used 2,000, was not recognized by the acquiree. It was not recognized by the acquiree, sir. Contingent liability inki books mein nahi tha. It was not there in the books of the acquiree. I have recognized because of the tweaking of the definition, right? So 2,000. So I have taken there. Now it is one more thing. Okay. Market value, implicit rate of borrowing, fine. Okay, could not be measured, tax base is fine. Okay, if B is private limited, EP is increased by 20%, A private limited will pay an additional consideration of 1,000 into this 10 lakhs rupees. So the fair value of this consideration is 500. Fair value of the contingent consideration is 500, so I take into account. So what I have added new thing, sir? I added this new thing, I added this new thing. This is there in the formula. Consideration measured at fair value, and net asset is 22,600. My goodwill is 9,933. This goodwill will not be amortized but tested for impairment at least once annually. Matlab ek bar they will be measured at, they will be tested for impairment. Sir, now my question goes to all of you. Sir, have you understood this first live example of the business combination acquisition? Acquiree does 4 things: recognition, derecognition, remeasurement, and reclassification. Yes, sir. And the number crunching makes all these things very clear. Rather than all bhashan, rather than all the lectures, number crunching goes into my mind, into my mind, into my heart. Okay. All right, sir. All right, so this is the, now I want to tell you this. So going forward, B limited will stick to these numbers. B limited, hey, I am not going to alter my life. You may do whatever you want to, because you are the acquirer. You wanted to measure the goodwill. I don't want to measure the goodwill. So a B limited in years future will give you future balance sheet based on this numbers only. What A limited has to do, A limited has to take into account because when B Limited gives the depreciation, though, if depreciation will be given for a useful life of 10 years at 2,500, but when B Limited prepares the consolidated statement, B Limited will make following changes. B Limited will consider the depreciation at 3,000 and not 2,500. This is known as a consolidation entry, and this applies only in the consolidation account. This will not be applicable in a separate financial statements of the acquirer. In a separate financial statement of the acquirer, the consideration will be this 8,000 multiplied by 4,000. The consideration will be 20,000 crore rupees, 2 crore rupees. Okay, this is only in the consolidated financial statement. One of the participants also has endorsed this fact that this is applicable only to the consolidated financial statement. Let's go quickly to those numbers once again. Cost of acquisition is 700. Fair value of the net assets is fair value of net assets, mind you well, not the fair value of the NCI is 300. Intangible assets not recognized by the acquiree is 100. And contingent liability is 30 and restructuring provision is 70. So what we will do, what is my block A? What is my block A? This is presumed to be 100% acquisition. The block A is 700 and block B is 300, and it will increase. Block B will increase by 100. Block B is nothing but the net asset. Now net asset not recognized by the acquiree is 100. So they will be increased by 100. Let us see. Cost of acquisition is 700, less fair value of the net asset is 300, and add restructuring provision. Now add restructuring provision. What do you mean by add restructuring provision? 70. Why am I adding restructuring provision? Why am I adding to it? Okay, now let us put one more thing. Had this restructuring lafda was not there, what would have been my goodwill? 700 minus 300. 700 minus 300. Yes or no? Had this restructuring provision not been there, what would have been? No, it's not capitalization. It's not capitalization. It's not capitalization. It's not capitalization. It's something else. Now let us presume that this was not there. This was not there. So 700 minus 300. Now what is 300? Is my net asset. Correct, sir? Is my net asset. So 700 minus 300 would have been 400, my goodwill. But now I am taking into account the contingent liability. So as a result of which my net asset will go down from 300 to 230. 700 to 230. So in this case, my goodwill will then go up. My goodwill will then go up, sir, by 70 rupees. That's what they mean to say. Now, this is the accounting done by the acquiree. This is the accounting done by the acquiree's dabba accountant. Ab dekhiye, now let us see what has changed. This is the correct accounting. Now, what he's done, what this guy has done, sir, he's amortized goodwill of 47. Oh, it is amortized goodwill of 47. Has he done the correct thing, sir? Has the accountant done the correct thing by amortizing goodwill by 10%? Hello, this is the accountant done. Accountant has done this, given these numbers to me. Has he been? He has not done correct thing because they are impairments every year. Very good. So now what is the correct accounting? The correct accounting is done like this. Okay. 700 is my cost of acquisition. 300 is my fair value of the net asset. Now fair value of the intangible asset is 100. So by doing so, by adding 100 value of the intangible assets, my net asset will go up from 300 to 400. It will go up from 300 to 400. So now I should do 700 minus 400. So now I should do my accounting. 700 minus 400 is 300. But the picture is baki hai. Picture is still not over. I need to take into account the restructuring contingent liability. I need to take into account the restructuring provisions, as a result of which my net assets will go down. My net assets will go down. If my net assets go down, my goodwill will go up. So now let us do this calculation in a different manner, because there is latest plus and minus sign, which may confuse you. Okay, so which may confuse you. So let us do one thing. What is my consideration? 300. Okay, My consideration is, sorry, 700. All right. My net assets are 400. How 400? Yes, sir. 300 and 400. Right. What is my liability? Which is 30 and 70. So my liability is 100. Okay. So my liability is 100. So my net. So I should do 100. So up to this is 300 plus 100 of the intangible assets. My liability, additional liability I recognize as compared to my acquiree is 3. So my net assets have become, my net assets are 300 and 700 minus 300 is 400. Okay, my goodwill is correct, sir. All right, sir, my goodwill is correct. Very happy. Okay, now what happens? Amortization of intangible assets. It is presumed now, it's not written as an example, but amortized intangible assets should have a 10 years useful life. I'm sorry about that. So it is the intangible asset which is amortized, not the goodwill, which Dabba accountant has done here wrongly. Rightly, we not amortize the goodwill, we will impair goodwill, which is 0 here. So this is what the correct accounting is being done, sir. Now I'm skipping this example because it is the same one. I have given the bigger example than this. I have given you the bigger example than this. So allow me to skip this because there is many more things to come. Now here, sir, I suggest and request, binti karta hu, I am requesting you to please pay attention and please write down the numbers along with you. This covers accounting for investment in associates, wherein equity method is applicable. Nitesh ji, आपका वीडियो बंद कीजिए. Nitesh ji, please close your video, sir. So this is covering the equity method. So time come hai, isliye I want your full attention here. On 1st April 2011, this is concerning the previously held equity interest. On 1st April 2011, PQR acquired 30%, so it is an associate for 8,000 crores. Write down, keep on writing the figures, 8,000 crores. PQR accounts its investment in XVR using the equity method. Fine. On 31st March 2012, एक साल के पश्चात, the PQR Limited recognized its share of the net assets as under. Its share, unka share, its own share, not the results of PQR. So share of profit is 700. So you will add to that. Share of exchange difference 100. You will add to that. And share in the revaluation of OCI 50. So you are adding 8,850 in the carrying amount of original investment of 8,000 because you are using the equity method. So on 31st March 2012, the carrying value of this investment is 8850. I hope all of you are clear about this, sir. Please, are you clear about this, sir? Are you clear about 8850? Guys, are you clear about 8850? Yes, fine. So 8,000 investment has already been taken into cognizance after taking into consideration these changes. Now, dekhe, this will go to profit and loss account. This will go to OCI. This will go to OCI. So entries, investment in the associates account debit 8850, to profit and loss account 700, to OCI 100, to OCI 50. This is the accounting entry. All right. Computer G, what is next? On 1st April 2012, PQR allowed remaining 70% for cash consideration of 25,000. So my block A, now let us see Hamara Bajaj. So 25,000 is the consideration. Consideration is 25,000. Yes, computer G, 25,000. Okay. The fair value of 30% of previously owned equity interest is 9,000. And fair value of XYZ net asset is 30,000. So I will then add 9,000 here, and I'll add up this to this. So my consideration is 34,000 and my net asset is 30,000. Let me see. XYZ net asset is 30,000. So what's my goodwill, sir? My goodwill is 4,000. देखिए computer जी, what's my goodwill? My goodwill is 4,000. Absolutely correct. Fair value of consideration 9,000. This is this. Okay. Now what happens, sir? Now what happens? You need to de-recognize 8850. You need to de-recognize 8850. You need to de-recognize 8850 because you already made the fresh value at this. This is a journal entry. Very quickly go through it. Otherwise, you can aram say see at home. This is my journal entry, sir. Identifiable assets 20,000. Goodwill is 4,000. We know it, sir. Sir, this is very clear to understand. Sir, leave this side pay. Okay, I'm leaving it side pay. This is figure, we know it. This figure, we know it. 25,000 I paid by check. I de-recognize my 8850, sir. What is, how did I get 8850? Yes, 8,000 plus 700 plus 100 plus 50. Clear. But sir, what is this? What is this, sir? What is this? Okay, what is the profit, sir? 9,000 is my fair value on the date of acquisition. 8850 is my carrying value on the date of acquisition, and the difference is 150. My profit actually is 150, but unrealized previously gain is 100, because this will be recognized in the profit and loss account. So it is 250. All right, sir. So 250 is recognized in my profit and loss account, and retained earning is 50. Now, what is this 50? How did I get this 50? How did I get the 50? I'll tell you how did you get a 50. This is again PPT revaluation. Yes, this is because of the PPT revaluation and the foreign exchange translation losses. Yes, this is because of this, sir. Absolutely correct. Because of this entry is being recognized. So in a nutshell, what you need to understand here is this entry. 25,000 plus 9,000 minus 30,000. This will give the thing. All right, sir. And now, चलिए हमारी गाड़ी क्या कहती है? गाड़ी क्या कहती है? Over to MCQs. So we'll come to MCQs little later, sir. Little later, because there is something very big in store for you. There is something very big in store for you, and that is this. So allow me, Vijay ji.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
एक विनती है मेरी आपसे सर कि एक तो 10 मिनट का व्यत्यय हुआ था, एंड सेकेंडली ऑफ कोर्स हमने टी ब्रेक तो सेक्रीफाइस कर दिया, बट वी हैव देन देखा कि भाई थोड़ा लंबी कहानी होती जा रही, तो आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू अलाउ मी टू एक्सटेंड दिस सेशन बाय एटलीस्ट 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, sir, no problem. We have around 5-6 questions also. We'll take it.
Okay. So, guys, do I have your permission? I'm sure you have the permission, right, sir? So now we have taken off from this side, and now we are coming fresh back to this accounting treatment. Now, what is accounting treatment, sir? We'll see that. Okay. Results of the operation. If there is a mid-year acquisition acquired during the year, then how the consolidation begins? The consolidation begins from the date of acquisition. Consolidation starts from this date. I'm sorry. Consolidation starts from this date. I'm trying to look at the pointer, and this guy is going somewhere else. Okay, it starts from the date of acquisition. So if you acquired an entity in between, from 30th September 2019, you will consolidate only from this period as far as results of operations are concerned. But on 31st March 20, you will consolidate full. You will not make that, okay, I acquired half year, so my assets will be 50%, not like that. Balance sheet as on 31st March 2020, as is, where is of the subsidiary is to be consolidated. Only the mid-year acquisition that you need to make sure that if there is a revenue of say 20,000 crores, then you should recognize revenue of only 10,000 crores. If there's a purchase of 10,000 crores, you recognize the purchase of 5,000 crores because it was mid-year acquisition. That's fine. So it begins when you go on the control, when you obtain the control. It is to be consolidated only till the date of disposal. So if you disposed on say 30th September 2021, then you should consolidate only up to this date and not thereafter anymore. All right. So then same combined like items of assets and liabilities, equity, income, expenses, cash flow statement, offset the carrying amount of the parent's investment in each subsidiary. We will see very soon that investment in subsidiary get de-recognized when you prepare the consolidated financial statements. Eliminate in full intra-group assets and liabilities, equity, income, expenses, even if you're holding just less than even if you're holding less than 100% also. Oh, not able to see PPT. Now can you see the Excel file, sir? Sorry, the PPT file?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry about it. It was my mistake only. My apologies. So acquisition begins at the date of acquisition and it ends at the date of disposal. So if you acquired a company on 30th September 2019, then you will ignore this numbers. And it is presumed that the profit or the transaction accrues evenly. And you will consolidate only till the date of disposal, not there any after. But when during the even if you acquired during the mid-year, the consolidation of balance sheet will be done in full, regardless of the date of acquisition, whether it is the mid or after or during. This is same as for the IGAP. Eliminate in group. So you've invested in 60% in the company B. You invested 60% in company B, but still you will do the full elimination of the all items. Use uniform accounting policies, method of depreciation we have discussed, eliminate intergroup balances and the transactions, present NCI in the subsidiary within the equity separately from the owner's equity, but basically is a part of the equity only. Now here is an example that amount payable is a parent, is a subsidiary. This is the adjustment on the consolidation. Amounts payable by the parent to subsidiary is appearing in parent's liability. So it's appearing here in the liability. This will be deleted. Amounts receivable from the parent is appearing in the debtor side in the books of the subsidiary. But both of them we will delete this amount and nothing will appear in the consolidated financial statements. They are eliminated, adjusted. Okay, a parent acquired 75% of this subsidiary on 1st April 2019. Extract from the company's statement of profit for the year ended 31st December 2019 are as under. So it is the calendar year company. If the investment is sold in the mid-year, then after the year consolidation, if the investment, Sanjay Sharma ji ka ek prashna hai, if the investment is sold in the mid of the year, then after year and how they consider the financial it will be considered only till the half yearly balance sheet till the 30th September after the no consolidation. Now let's focus on this because Vijay ji ka farman hai ki kuch questions hai wo bhi hum gaur karenge, but let me first complete this which is there, which is my daitya, and we are just 12 minutes away from this thing. So in next 27 minutes we'll complete whatever there is expected of me. Then furthermore will be bonus. Revenue is say 100 parent ka. Subsidiary is so much. Now it is acquired in the mid of the year. So 3 months have elapsed. You need to consolidate only 9 months. You need to consolidate only 75%. You need to consider only 3/4. So cost of sales is so much, 70/60. Since the acquisition ke baad, the parent has made sales to subsidiary of 15,000. None of this good remain in the inventory then. So this is not talking about the URP. So what you will do, as far as parent is concerned, you will consider full 100 and full 70. As far as subsidiary is concerned, you will recognize revenue of only 60,000 and you will recognize the cost of sale only of 45,000, 3/4. And 15,000 you will remove from the sales of the parent and 15,000 you will remove from the purchase cost of the subsidiary. A sale by parent is a purchase by subsidiary. Correct, sir? Let's see. So common item, common is to be deleted. So rather than here is 100 and 100, parent will take 100%. This is 9/12. 3/4. So instead of 60, I take my revenue at 45. Okay, fine. So my profit is so much. Instead of 80, it is 60. Instead of 60, it is 45. We know it is 3/4, right? And 15,000 will be deleted both from the sales and the purchases. So this is how you do the consolidation for a mid-year acquisition. Guys, are you clear about the mid-year acquisition, sir? Are you clear about the mid-year acquisition? Yes or no? Okay, fine. Thank you. चलिए कंप्यूटर जी आगे बढ़ते हैं. Computer जी, let's go further. Okay, the major adjustments are the goodwill, NCI, intercompany adjustments, intercompany balances, unrealized profits. Very good point. Inventory and the non-current assets transferred by the entities. Fine. So we'll see those, and I got examples for this. Issued capital of the group is that of the parent only. Cost of investment in subsidiaries eliminated in full. It is replaced by the net assets. Assets and liabilities of the group entity are simply cross cast of those parents. Parent, subsidiary, keep on adding, and final figure is this. Impairment of goodwill is recognized in the OCI in the P&L account. NCI represents subsidiaries net assets which are not owned by the parent. They can be measured by two-way: NCI at the date of acquisition, fair value, and the proportionate method. Okay, mid-year acquisition is so. Now, when a member of the group sells the inventory to the other member of the group, and that inventory is still held by the buying company at the end of the reporting period, obviously there must be some profit made by the parent or the subsidiaries, as the case may be. So we need to eliminate this, because as far as group is concerned, it is still within the entity. It is still within the part of the group. It has not gone out of the group. It is not gone out of the group. It's still hamare paas hi hai. It is still with us. So what you're supposed to do, you should eliminate the profit which is not realized. Technically, it is known as unrealized profit. Unrealized profit is eliminated in full, not 60%, 70%, not depending on your holding, from the inventory still held by the group company. Now, this group company could be parent, it could be subsidiaries. The direction is important. Direction, whether it is sold by the parent to subsidiary or subsidiary to parent, it is important. It is important. Now, parent is selling goods to subsidiary. So what entry they will pass? These entries in CFS only, mind you, will not separate financial statements. Debit group retained earnings and credit the group inventory. This is one entry to be passed in the books of the parents. Again, parent will pass one more entry: debit deferred tax assets and credit the income tax expenses. This both entry. Don't get mistaken that this entry is to be passed by the subsidiary. This entry is to be passed only by the parent. Only by the parent in the CFS. There are some examples. I'll show the example, but this is just a journal entry for that. Okay. Now, computer G, let us go. When the subsidiary sales to parent, what happens? Direction matters. So subsidiary is selling to parent, upstream. Upstream. This is downstream. Debit group retained earning. Sir, same entry we had passed. No change. Okay. Debit NCI, because wahan pe NCI is sitting. Because NCI is sitting in the subsidiary, because the profit of NCI is shared by owner and the NCI. So here we have debited only the group retained earning. Here we have debited both group and NCI. Why? Because it's a sale by subsidiary to parent. This will remain same, sir. This entry will remain same. This entry remains same. Amount will differ. Amount will differ. This is 1,000. This amount is same. This is 1,000. Amount is same. Presume it is 80%. This will become 800. This will become 200. If it is 20% NCI, this will be 200. This will be 800. This will be 1,000. Same entry, 1,000 and 1,000. Great. Any changes entry? No. Deferred tax expense? No. It will always give rise to deferred tax assets. So these are the masala of unrealized profits by the group entities. Okay, sir. Now this example is about the losing control. Losing control. Please give importance to this. Read it very well. Very well. I want ultra focus. In 2018, A acquired 100% of the equity for a consideration of 1,25,000. B's identifiable net asset is 1 lakh. So the goodwill recognized is 25,000. So my investment is 125, goodwill is 25. Again, this is numbers of the CFS. In the subsequent year, B increased net asset of 25,000, 20,000. So my net asset of B has gone up from 1 lakh to 120. Okay. Out of this, 15,000 was reported in profit and loss account and 5,000 was reported in the fair value. So my entry for this will be investment in subsidiary account will go up by 20,000 and I will credit P&L account by 15,000 and I'll credit 5,000 to OCI. Okay, entries here. Initial investment is 125. 20 is here, so it is 145. So my investment in a separate financial statement is 145. A then dispose of 75% of the equity interest at 115. So what I should ideally add 115, which is the money received, then the fair value of the equity interest retained. Fair value of equity interest, which is 25%, is 38,000 rupees. So I should recognize as my consideration 1,15,000 and 38,000. And what I should reduce, we will see that. So 115 plus 38. This is the fair value of the investment retained by me. This is the money received by me. And 145 is my cost of equity. Is my cost of equity, which I should recognize here, sir. Okay, sir. Fine. So the gain is 5,000, 8,000. Yes, my gain is 8,000. The gain previously recognized is 5,000. That you'll reverse, sir. So this is how you should pass an entry about the partial equity, selling of the equity, losing control. In other words, losing control. Now, non-current assets. What we have seen earlier is the current assets. Parent selling inventory to subsidiary and subsidiary selling inventory to parent. When subsidiary sells inventory to parent, it is the entries debit group investment, debit NCI, and credit inventory. When parent sells subsidiary to subsidiary, the entries only group retained earnings and credit group inventory. Fine. Now let us talk about the non-current assets sold by the parent or the group companies. So an asset costing 15,000 net carrying amount is sold for 20,000. It's a non-current asset. It's going to remain in the subsidiary or the group. Parent has recognized 5,000 extra. So remove that profit. Correct? De-recognize that profit. What is the entry? Is there entry here? It will be there in some examples. I'll give the entry. Debit group retained earning 5,000. Credit non-current asset 5,000. Because it was increased from 10 to 15. 15 to 20. So we have removed that. But what my subsidiary has done, presume there are 5 years remaining useful life. I would have depreciated by 3,000. How come? 15,000 divided by 5, 3,000. Yes. But what my subsidiary has done, the subsidiary has depreciated 20,000 by 5 years. So 4,000. So they had extra depreciated the asset by 1,000. Yes or no? Instead of 10,000, instead of 3,000, my depreciation is 1,000, 4,000. So what is the impact? My profit has gone down. What is another impact? Carrying value has also come down. Yes or no? So what should I do now? Reverse. So I debit non-current asset, increasing by 1,000 extra, and I credit my retained earnings. Group's retained earning by 1,000. Why? Because मैंने ज़्यादा depreciation charge किया. Why? Because I charge extra depreciation by 1,000. We'll see the accounting entries in some places. Then these are about the dividends and all these subsidiaries. A purchase with a view to sell is still not excluded from consideration. Okay, any question now, sir? Sir ji, sir. Okay, now I must show you this. I must show you new share. विजय जी, आपके सामने एक्सेल फाइल है सर?
Yes, sir.
चलिए, मैंने ये शुरुआत की है. आई स्टार्टेड विद द रूडिमेंट्री. रूडिमेंट्री मींस बेसिक, फाउंडेशन, फंडामेंटल. एकदम सिंपल, बहुत आसान, वेरी सिंपल, वेरी इजी. The date of reporting is 31st December 2018. The date of acquisition is also 31st December 2018. All right. This is the investment of the this is the balance sheet of the parent, and this is the balance sheet of the subsidiary. Okay. So I have invested 1,000 in my subsidiary. And sir, we remember you mentioning that when the it's my official time is over, but I'm still extending 15 minutes, cable 15 minutes. Cable G. Okay. All right. What I've acquired. The issued capital is 1,000 and the retained earning is 1,000. So I would say, thank you so much. Thank you so much. आपने मुझे सहारा, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा सर. स्तुति तो भगवान को भी पसंद आती है, but when someone appreciate your work, you really feel very happy, and अपने आप को मैं कृतज्ञ समझता हूँ सर. Thank you so much. So what I have acquired, the net asset of the acquiree is 1,000. I paid 1,000. I'm acquiring 1,000. So fitush. What do you mean by fitush? My net asset is 1,000. My goodwill is 0. तो न तो है goodwill and न तो है goodwill, न तो है मेरी what do you call it? Gain for bargain purchase. So I think, okay, all right, sir, this is what I have shown you. Block A, consideration at fair value 1,000. NCI proportionate method 0 because it is my 100% acquisition. FE of the previously held equity interest is again 0. So my table A is 1,000. Table B is 1,000. So no goodwill, no gain from bargain purchase. Computer G, हमें दिखाए a balance sheet. Now computer G shows the consolidated financial statements. Yes, sir. All item is to be ordered on cross connection. Okay. So I added 2,000 here and I added 500 here. Okay. Maybe you want this to be increased. I will see this. Okay, sir. All right. So this is 2,500. I see. By the way, today Vijay ji has shown me a very good command as sharing of the audio. Vijay ji, शुक्रगुजार हैं आपके. Thank you so much. I learned a new thing from Vijay ji. All right. Investment in subsidiary gets knocked off. This is the cost of investment disappeared. Correct. In the console, it won't be, sir. So we understand we are all chartered accountants. And this is 2,500. It is 2,500. You're right, sir. So my total assets are 5,000. Okay. Issued capital will always be that of the parent only. Huh? Fine. See, why am I telling you this such a बहुत important, simple thing? Because many of you may not have access to the consolidated financial statements, may not have experience of doing so. So I presume that no one knows. That's a safe assumption, rather than assuming that everyone knows. And retained earnings. Now, what is required later on is the post-acquisition changes in the acquiree's profits, which is 0 here, because I acquired on the 31st December 2018, and my year is acquired on 31st December 2018, and my year end is also 31st December 2018. So no changes, no change here. All right. So this table is very important. Acquisition date pe kya net assets tha? What are the net assets on the acquisition date, and what is the end of reporting period? This being the same, so there is no change. Now it was 1,000. It is 1,000. So no changes. Fine. This is okay. There is no NCI also. So very simple. You cannot have more any simplest example than this. Okay. Now this question is with goodwill. So I put number 2 in goodwill. And friends, I must tell you something. This is going to be shared with you. Jia, this is going to be shared with all of you, sir, with my pleasure. So here 31st December is a reporting date. So that is the end of the reporting date. And what is acquisition date? Oh, it's 31st December only. So cool. No post acquisition profit. Chaliye. Now then what is the catch? I had paid 1,200 here. I have paid 1,200. What are my net assets? 1,000. So I have a goodwill of 200. Yes, sir. Yes or no? Okay, now let's see. Computer ji, bataiye hame. Please show us. Okay, computer ji is showing my cost of acquisition is 1,200. Net asset is 1,000. So my goodwill is 200. So I add my goodwill here. Fantastic, sir. I remove my investment of 1,200, sir, which is obvious, sir. Don't pakao now. Okay. Okay. My net current asset is 100 plus 800 is 1,800. This is 4 plus 200 is 600. Fine. My issued capital will, sir, always issued capital and retained earning will always be that of the parent. Issued capital won't be much change. Retained earning will be a change because of the post acquisition earnings, which is 0 because same date acquisition, same date reporting. So obviously there's no change here. So this will remain same. This is 2,600. Fine, sir. This table is very important because had this been 200, my post acquisition profit would have been 100, and that should have been added to this figure. Are you getting my point, sir? But anyway, we have got one example of this. We'll see that. So this example of the only so-called complication was the goodwill. Goodwill, correct, sir? We know, sir, block A and block B. आप ही ने सिखाया था. You only had told. नहीं. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Is my passion. It's my obsession. It's my passion. ये मेरा एक है. चलिए sir. Computer जी, अगला प्रश्न में हमने I think I made some changes here, sir. I made some changes here. जिसमें मैंने काफी तब्दीली की है. I made some changes here, and I have twisted the example from the cost to the fair value. Okay, now let's see what is the complication here. This is 31st December 2018. Yes, this was acquired 2 years back. This will result into the post-acquisition profit. Sir, you still don't have NCI. You still don't have the NCI. So let us be very quick. On the date when I acquired it, the subsidiaries reserve are CU 100 at the date of acquisition. So now let us see. My acquisition date is 900 and 100. So my net assets were 1,000. What should be my goodwill? 200. What should be my goodwill? 200. Computer ji, goodwill dikhaiye. Okay. Computer ji, goodwill is here. 1,200 is my consideration. Yes, sir. 100. This 900 plus 100. What is this? This is 100, sir. This is 100. Okay, CU 100. So this was 100. So I had my goodwill was this is my net asset. My goodwill was 200. So we know that if A exceeds B, it results into goodwill. If B exceeds A, is gained from bargain purchase. Here A exceeds B, so it's 200. But sir, my goodwill is 200. Why it is 120? Is that a mistake? No. Computer ji, aap mistake nahi kar sakte. You cannot make a mistake, computer ji. Yes, because it says goodwill has since then been impaired by 80. Okay, this is the case of 100% acquisition, so there is no question of sharing of impairment loss with the NCI, but it is in this case 100%. So now let us see how my retained earning. First, my retained earning is 3720, whether it was 2300. So let us give the reconciliation statements. I see reconciliation statement is here. Okay. Oh, sir, I've done it for you. मैं घबरा गया. I was worried कि कहीं करना ना पड़े. I was worried. I should have done it. It should be required to do it now, but it's already there, prepared for you. Okay, chaliye. Parent 3200. Now, where did I get it figure, sir? This is on the date of reporting parents' retained earnings. Sir, we got it. Parents' retained earning on the date of reporting. Plus share of subsidiaries post-acquisition profit. It was 700 here. 700 here. It was 600 there. So now let us see. Oh, it's here. Reporting is 700. Acquisition was 100. So increase Muzafa hai 600. So increase being 100% of subsidiary will be added to the retained earning of the subsidiary of the parent. So this is goodwill written off, entries, debit, retained earnings and credit goodwill. ये है हमारी goodwill. Fine, sir. So we got it, sir. Sir. And now don't puck off. Please go ahead. Okay, I'm going ahead. Fine. So here is a case wherein there is some complication, sir. And let us see, computer ji, kya complication hai? Okay. Let us see the date. Date not given. It is 31st December 2018. I'm sorry about it. It is 31st December 2018. And 2 years back, it doesn't matter much difference because 2 years back you had acquired. So this will be there post acquisition. Where is the it's here at the date of acquisition and post at the time of reporting. Let us see reporting kya hai. Reporting is 50. Fine. This is again 50. No change. Computer ji, kyun awaaz karte ho? Okay, on the date of reporting, it is 1150. Sir, 1150. We got it, sir. So my total net assets is 1200 on the reporting. So I need to reduce from that what was there on the date of acquisition. So this 50 is remaining same, no change. But subsidiaries reserve at that point of time were 150. How much? 150. So my net asset should have been how much? 50 plus 150 is 100, 200. Fine. 50 plus this is so much. So 200. So there is an increase in my retained earnings by 1000. This will be divided by and between the parent and subsidiary. Why? Parent and the NCI. Reason being, you have acquired only 80% of the holding. So let us see. Okay, let us do it gradually, sir. Sir, please go step by step. Okay, sir. I'll go step by step. As you wish. As you wish. Okay. NCI. Proportionate method. Where is the goodwill, sir? Sir, goodwill ka kya? Oh, it's here. So 1200 is my cost. So 1200 is my cost. How much paid? Yes, it is here. So we got this figure, sir. Okay. Then since you acquired 20%, 80%, 20% is my NCI. So NCI of what, sir? Net asset on the date of acquisition, which was 200 only. Yes, on the date of, sir, we got it. So 200 multiplied by 20 is how much? 40. Okay. So 1240 is block A. And what I acquired is 200. How? Sir, it's here. 50 and 150. Yeah. Okay, fine. So 1040 is my goodwill. So we are clear about that. Correct, sir? Clear. Now, second step is how much is added to NCI and how much is reduced from the NCI. Because mujhe pata hai, I know that there is an impairment by 208. But sir, that before that, let us see how much is added. So your this reserve was 150 and it has gone up to 1150. So what is the increase? What is the izafa? Is 1000. So 1000, 20% will be added to NCI. So 200 and what is my NCI, sir? Okay, now let us see whether we have account of NCI. Yes, we got the NTI. NCI is 40. It is 200. This 200 I got 20% of this thing. Fine. Okay. And there is impairment. No impairment or impairment. Let us see now. There is an impairment, sir. There is an impairment, sir. So we'll see what is the impairment cost, sir. How NCI was okay. It's here. Yeah, it's here. Just a minute, sir. I'll come back to you. What is my goodwill, sir? Let us do the calculation. Goodwill is 1200. 40 is the 40 will go to the NCI. So my 1240 is a goodwill. Share asset says so. Goodwill is 1040. This is the consideration paid. This is the NCI. This is the total amount. Net asset was 200. My goodwill is 1040. Out of this, there is the impairment of 208. Now this impairment entry will be like this, sir. Debit and credit. I know I have to credit my goodwill by 208. I know how to debit my retained earnings by how much, sir? Damn it, by retained earnings into 0.8%, and I have to debit my NCI at this into 0.20. So my NCI will come down by 41.6. Now let us see, my NCI has come down by 41.6. Where is my NCI, sir? Oh, my NCI is proportionate method 120. Proportionate method is 120. Now let us see how I have arrived at this figure. Can anyone tell me this figure of this thing? Can anyone tell me there is one check I have put it, sir? My question is googly, sir. My question is googly. My NCI was 240. My NCI was 40 at the beginning, sir. Hello. Opening proportionate is 40. You know that, sir? How did I arrive at NCI? 200 into 0.20. Is my 40% correct, sir? Sorry. Hello, everyone clear about the 40? Hello, are you clear about 40? Please tell me yes or no. Are you clear about the opening 40? Yes, sir. Fine. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, 200 you added to it, sir. We are clear is the post acquisition profit. I put zero impairment because it is the proportionate method, and in the proportionate method, the goodwill impairment is not shared by the NCI. Goodwill impairment, when the proportionate method of the fair valuation of the proportionate method of the NCI is measured, goodwill borne impairment is borne only by the NC, only by the owner. So this is 240. So for my proportionate method, my entry of this will be this. My entry of this will be like this, and there is 0. All right. So let us now take. I've given the concurrent example of the fair value measurement of goodwill. So this is clear. My goodwill is 1200. My goodwill is 1040. 208 is my impairment. So my goodwill is 832 here. When the NCI is measured at the proportionate method. Now let us come to the retained earnings. My retained earnings as per my books of account is 2600. I will add to this 2600 80% of 1000. 80% of 1000 is what, sir? 2600 plus 800, and I'm reducing 100% of the impairment loss because the NCI is measured at the proportionate method. So the pura maar jo lagega, pura loss is borne only by the BAP parent 3192. All right. Now let us twist this. Let us twist. Instead of measuring NCI at proportionate method, I am measuring NCI at fair value. So assume fair value of NCI. So what is the cost? They assume that fair value on the date of fair value of NCI is 100. I am now using fair value method of NCI. Cost is 1200. This will remain same, no change. Net asset will remain same, no change. What will be changed? This will be 100, which was how much, sir? Which was 40. Kahan gaya? It was 40 here. Now it is 100. So this is 1300 minus 200 net asset. This will not change whether you apply this method or that method. So my goodwill is 1100. My goodwill will be impaired in full. So my entry for this will be debit retained earnings 80%, debit the NCI 20% of what? Of impairment. So my goodwill will be reduced totally 208. So 1100 minus 208 is my goodwill ka new figure. Correct, sir? Now see the maja. Now see the jadoo. My post acquisition earnings See, this will remain same. Yes. Post acquisition profit will remain same. Correct. Now here it is 208. What? Impairment loss. In FV model, it is 166. So here it will be 1 into 80%. This will be into 0.20%. Correct, sir? So when I am adopting the fair value method of measuring the goodwill, measuring the NCI, the impairment loss is borne by and between owner and NCI. This is 100% loss is borne by the owner because it is the proportionate method. This is the fair value method, so it is only, so this is the change, and in this is the change in the impairment method, sir. So sir, this is as far as this example is done, it is all done here. And if you want, still I can give one small example, and that is the example of the URP. विजय जी, मुझे अगर इजाजत है 10 मिनट की, तो मैं ये अनरियलाइज्ड प्रॉफिट्स का मसला हल कर दूं सर.
करिए सर, करिए.
Okay. For me it's very difficult because it's 3.5, almost 4 hours मैं चेयर से उठा नहीं हूं, मगर फिर भी ये दिल में एक जनून है कि आपके लिए कर दूं.
चलिए ठीक है.
हाँ. Okay, now parent owns 80%. Now let me give this simple example: parent to subsidiary. Parent has parent owns 80% in the subsidiary. During the accounting period, parent sold goods to subsidiary for currency unit 18,000, which gave the subsidiary parent sold to parent owned subsidiary and goods to subsidiary. This will give, which has given the parent a profit of 6,000, which has given the parent a profit of 6,000. So what is your profit on 18,000? I made a profit of 6,000. So 30% on the selling price. Now at the end of the reporting period, parent's account showed the retained profit of 1 lakh and the subsidiary's account showed the net assets of 75,000, which is here. So now what they say, that at the end of the day 50% of the goods have remained unsold. At the end of the day, the 50% of the goods have remained unsold. So 50% of the goods have remained unsold. So the entry is you remove the retained earnings by 6,000 by 3,000, and you remove the inventory by 6,000 rupees. Now here from subsidiary to parent is very important. In this case, the entry is passed like group's retained earning account debit 6,000 ka 80% and 6,000 ka 20% is so much, and by that you should create the deferred tax asset by 3,000 and multiply by this. Why this is important? Because in this case the reporting of subsidiaries net asset will come down by 3,000 rupees. Here reporting entities, this will come down by 3,000 because that will impact your NCI. So this is the one entry for the NCI. Unrealized profit we know as a quality URP. You call it a URP, sir. So sir, ये example रह गया था, and this is going to be shared with all in one. And let us see. If you want me to take the MCQs, sir, I am willing to take the MCQs. Reserve the answer to you. Okay, reserve the answer to you. Answers are given in the last sheet. Answers are given in the last sheet. Should the following cost be included in the consideration transferred in the business combination? Ye is related to the acquisition cost. Should the acquisition cost be added to the consideration for acquiring a company? Reserve the answer to you. Can I move to the second answer, please? Second question. Reserve. Do the self-assessment, sir. Do the self-assessment. I know you may be correct. Perhaps you are correct, but let's the second example, sir. And NMC acquired 100% of GDP company for a consideration transferred at 112 million. At the acquisition date, the carrying value, the amount net asset would 100. So you paid A1 112, and the carrying assets, net assets carrying value was 100, and the fair value was 120. So we need to count 120. How should the difference between the consideration transferred and the net asset acquired presented in the financial statement should be? So you paid 112, you got 120. It's a gain in bargain purchase. Gain in bargain purchase, 8 million to be recognized in the, not in OCI, not in intangible asset, should be recognized in, you decide where to be recognized, under the IFRS, under the IFRS 10, under IFRS 3 it is recognized in P&L account, and under Ind AS I don't know where it is recognized. You give me the answer. 100% of the equity share, so no NCI. On 30th June, Beta issued 5 lakhs one ordinary share for which has a fair value of 4. So your consideration should be 5 lakhs multiplied by 8. Remember this. In addition, resulted into incurring fees payable to external advisor. This will not be considered, and share issue cost will also be not considered. So what is the consideration? What is the in accordance with the business combination, goodwill at the acquisition date is measured by subtracting the identifiable assets acquired and net liability from. Block A is consideration plus NCI plus fair value of previously held equity interest. So net assets will be reduced from what amount? 4.18, 4, 4.2 or 4.38, because these both are the acquisition related costs. Answer is very simple. In a business combination, acquirer's interest in fair value in the net assets acquired exceeds the consideration. That means आपका consideration कम है, net assets is ज़्यादा. So you reassess the recognition, measurement, everything, and then recognize in the. This question was already asked. The date of shareholders agreement, date of payment considered, date of obtaining control is 1st July. Okay. So these are it. Friends, any questions?
Yeah, Girish bhai, take over. Sir, questions are there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
जनार्दन से मैं आपसे डिमांड किया है सर.
जी हाँ.
I will read for you. Query number 1 is that a company has invested into a partnership firm.
हाँ.
Whether accounts of the firm which are audited under Income Tax Act also required to be prepared under Ind AS.
No. Ideally, the accounting policies followed by the parent and subsidiary have to be the same for the limited purpose of consolidation only. Now, we know that Ind AS is applicable only to the companies. Ind AS is not applicable to the LLP, neither applicable to the partnership firm. So when the partnership firm is a subsidiary, even if it is a subsidiary, it need not follow the Ind AS for filing ITR, for filing with the GST returns, wherever. It need not follow Ind AS. It is only for the limited purpose of consolidation that the parent will restate the financial statements of the partnership firm or BOI or AOP or LLP.
Next question, sir.
Yeah.
Spouse control entity, which is an investment in entity, it is required, it need to be consolidated?
Sir, can you repeat?
Spouse control entity.
Sorry.
Spouse control, which is controlled by wife or husband.
Spouse control? No. It should be controlled by the entity, sir. It should be controlled by the entity, sir.
Where is that spouse control entity is an investment entity, need to be considered or not?
सर अब स्पाउस को क्यों बीच में लाते सर?
पता नहीं क्वेरी है
सर. स्पाउस को नहीं, आपको पत्नी पे इतना प्रेम लगता है किसको सर? ये सर स्पाउस की बात ही नहीं आती सर यहाँ.
ओके सर.
वो तो रिलेटेड पार्टी डिस्क्लोजर में आती है सर, यहाँ पे नहीं आती.
So उसके रिलेटेड what it will be termed as associate once the control is lost. So query is not in proper manner.
हाँ जी हाँ.
The next query is the treatment for accounting of NCI is different as compared to AS 21.
Very much sir, because ये जो मसला है ना सर, यहाँ पे ही है कि proportionate method and fair value method. हमारे यहाँ जो था वो proportionate method था, यहाँ पे एक और पहलू उसने ऐड किया, and वो है fair value method.
In continuation, same query, in in Ind AS, can we have negative NCI?
Can we have?
Negative NCI. Positive NCI, negative NCI.
सर नेगेटिव एनसीआई कैसे आएगी सर?
So we can't have.
वो हो ही नहीं सकता, नेगेटिव एनसीआई आएगी नहीं सर, बिकॉज क्या है कि वो देन ऑटोमेटिक गेन फ्रॉम बार्गेन परचेस में चला जाएगा.
Purchase to चला जाएगा.
या
Sir, please give full name of master circular which you refer in some work.
डिवीजन 2 शेड्यूल 3 टू द कंपनीज एक्ट आप जरूर पढ़ेगा. And one educational material which I refer to, see, ICI has reduced the educational issue, the educational material, and that is available free of charge. And this educational material are there for all the standards. Sir, वो standard आप पढ़ेंगे ना तो आप खुद faculty बन जाएंगे.
Okay. There was a query, sir, kindly throw some light on recent amendment in Ind AS 103.
सर केवल एक ही जगह पे चेंज किया है, दैट इज द डेफिनेशन ऑफ बिजनेस. दे हैव डिफाइंड अ बिजनेस एंड दे मेक इट मोर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव देन द सिंपल वन. अर्लियर चीज भी रखी है, इट शुड बी इनपुट, देयर शुड बी आउट, देयर शुड बी इनपुट, देयर शुड बी प्रोसेस एंड देयर शुड बी आउटपुट. बट द ओनली थिंग व्हिच दे एडेड एंड व्हिच इज नॉर्मली मेंट एट द स्टार्टअप कंपनीज, कि जहां पे स्टार्टअप कंपनी में केवल 10-15 एम्प्लॉइज रहते, प्रोसेस रहती है, कुछ बिजनेस जनरेट नहीं भी किया होता, तो वहां के लिए सर उन्होंने सब तब्दीली की है in the definition of business.
Okay. Last query from my side. My side is I have received this. Sir, while preparing financial statements by parent in year 2021, shall we prepare CFS even investments would sold in 1920?
सर ऐसा है कि मैंने कहा कि
this question is asked from
sir,
compared to financial statement.
Let us take the situation that financial year 2019 you had subsidiary and you had prepared the consolidated subsidy, और ये एकलौती subsidy थी. सर एक बार in the meanwhile यहाँ पे एक है हमारे मित्र डॉक्टर मिस्टर CS संजय पिछोड़िया. Sanjay Pichodia, whether the gain, bargain, purchase gain will be directly credited to equity while recording the business, it will be routed through OCI in the equity. All right, now let us go to our question. 31st March 2019 you had a subsidiary, एकलौती subsidiary थी, आपने CFS बनाया. 31st March 20
you sold out.
Before 31st March 20 you sold out.
Yes.
Correct. So on 31st March 20 you don't need to prepare the consolidated financial statement. That's it.
That's all, sir. There are no more queries. So दोस्तों हम आज इस महफिल के आखिरी पड़ाव पे आ गए हैं. That is what of
सर हम ऐसे नहीं छोड़ने वाले हैं, क्योंकि जब YMD का शेड्यूल रहता है, सेशन रहता है, तो गीत से शुरुआत होती है और गीत से उसका अंत भी होता है.
सर आपके गीत के लिए तो हम वेट ही करेंगे.
देखिए मैं ऐसा बात कह रहा हूँ कि आप जिंदगी में इतनी जबरदस्त शिद्दत के साथ कुछ भी करे कीजिए, इतनी मेहनत कीजिए कि सफलता आपके पैर छूने के लिए राजी हो जाए और आपको कहे कि राजकुमार तेरे बिना रहा ना जाए. ओके, तो चलिए साधना जी पे फरमाया गया ये गीत, हालांकि बहुत पुराना गीत है, दीपक अपना व्हाट इज नेम, समी कपूर साहब. हाँ समी कपूर, एक सर. सो ये है आजा आई बहार राजकुमार तेरे बिना रहा ना जाए. तो सफलता ऐसे कहेंगे कि मेरे सफलता के राजकुमार मैं तेरे बिना रहा नहीं जाता हूँ. एक मिनट.
थैंक यू सर.
एक मिनट सुनिए, बहुत मधुर गीत है सर. मैं दावा करता हूँ कि पूरे दिन आप गुनगुनाएं.
वॉल्यूम.
Can you hear the song? Can you hear the song?
Volume is low, sir. Can you increase the volume?
Increase the volume, हाँ. ज्यादा ही है.
Volume, sir.
सर कंप्यूटर ऑडियो शेयर नहीं किया. Sir, your voice is also muted now. अब आ गया.
This is better.
बेटर ना सर, यहाँ से उसकी शुरुआत हो गई.
राजकुमार तेरे बिन रहा न जा, आजा आई बहार दिल है बेकरारों में, राजकुमार तेरे बिन रहा न जा.
हमारे जैसे ओल्ड स्कूल फिल्म वाले को तो बहुत ये पसंद आता होगा, क्योंकि ये है पुरानी गीत, हमारे जमाने का, उस दौर का गीत है सर.
बढ़िया है सर.
ठीक है. गिरीश भाई प्लीज कंटिन्यू.
ओके सर, थैंक यू गिरीश भाई. प्लीज
सर 2 मिनट रुकिए. 2 मिनट
बोलने दो सर. थैंक यू यज्ञेश भाई for enlightening us on Ind AS 103 and 110. Sir, you took us through counter number 103 and counter number 110 to the practical illustration and self assessment test sir. And बीच में ये ट्रैवल के बीच में जो म्यूजिकल नोट्स आते हैं कोई भी गाने में, वैसे इसमें भी आए एक्वायरर, एक्वायरी, मेजरमेंट, एक्विजिशन, कॉस्ट, पीरियड और कंसोलिडेशन, एडजस्टमेंट. Sir, you dealt with all the notes so superbly. It is engraved in our mind, sir.
Thank you.
So on behalf of all the Consortium association who has organized this lecture, मैं सिर्फ इतना ही बोलूँगा, मोगों में ना खुश किया.
मोगे मुझे खुश
किया. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for taking our request. Friends, now 22nd we will have Ind AS at 11:30 for 1 hour special session, Ind AS 8, which was left out on the first day. So we will be having that Ind AS 8, Ind AS 10, Ind AS 10 and examples of Ind AS 8 for 1 hour to maximum 90 minutes. And the rest of the schedule is okay. The links have been put up on the Google Drive. So kindly check through it. Thank you very much. Yesterday's session has been postponed to 20th of September. The links will be the same. Yesterday's session has been postponed to 20th September. The links are the same. Kindly take note. You don't have to look for the links for that. The same links have been rescheduled. Okay, friends. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for the support of creating this.
समय बहुत कम था, मगर